Chapter 32-33. Then, the demons activated the power of their bloodlines and pressed down on Emo Qingyun. Emo Qingyun frowned slightly when he sensed the bloodline pressure of these demons. Unwilling to be outdone, he also activated his bloodline power. Then, an ancient and powerful bloodline power exploded from Emo Qingyun's body. Under the suppression of Emo Qingyun's bloodline power, the demons' bloodline power was strongly suppressed. Then, their bloodline power leaked out and collapsed under Emo Qingyun's suppression. The demons were shocked when they saw their bloodline power collapse when it clashed with Emo Qingyun's bloodline power. From this, it could be seen how high the grade of Emo Qingyun's bloodline had reached. Not bad at all. Upon seeing Emo Qingyun's performance, the black flood dragon snake at the top of the hall laughed heartily and praised him. Then, it said, "Commander Wu Zhang, why are you still not introducing this little friend's identity?" "Yes." Wu Zhang nodded and said, "Palace Master, this is young Master Emo Qingyun. I happened to meet him when I was patrolling outside. Mr. Emo comes from the border area. It's his first time in the inner area of the Sea of Dividing Worlds. He wants to figure out the mystery of his background. I briefly told him that the Palace Lord is recruiting helpers, and that the Palace Lord knows a lot of important figures, which might be of help to him in unraveling the mystery of his origins. Thus, he agreed to my request." Wu Zhang was very cunning. Seeing that Nie Quanqing saw Emo Qingyun, he immediately raised Emo Qingyun's status. In his opinion, with Emo Qingyun's talent and potential, his future was limitless. It was better for him to lower his status. Nie Quanqing nodded after hearing Wu Zhang's explanation. His gaze on Emo Qingyun changed slightly. Wu Zhang and the other demons had limited experience and didn't know the origin of the Amethyst Thunder Dragon, but he knew very well. The territory that the Amethyst Thunder Dragon occupied was not within the Sea of Worlds. Emo Qingyun had grown up in the Divine Realm's world-dividing sea. It was very likely that this person was his senior and had encountered an undefeatable enemy. This kid came to the inner regions of the Divine Realm to unravel the mystery of his origins. He probably hasn't left the Divine Realm's Sea of Division. He grew up here. Nie Quanqing thought to himself. When Nie Quanheng thought of this, he immediately lowered his guard against Emo Qingyun. While they were talking, a black serpent with a horn on its head flew in from outside the hall. The black serpent flew in and cast a disdainful glance at Emo Qingyun. Then, he said to Nie Quanheng in dissatisfaction, "Don't worry, Dad. I won't be in any danger if I enter the East Sea Lost Palace alone. These guys you found might even drag me down." As soon as the black dragon spoke, Wu Zhang and the others hurriedly explained and tried to persuade him. "Young Palace Lord, the East Sea Lost Palace might not be dangerous. It's too dangerous for you to enter with your precious body. As the saying goes, 2 fists can't fight 4 hands. Bring some subordinates with you to deal with any unexpected situations. The people we found are all first-rate geniuses. They'll be of great help to you." The group of commanders tried to persuade him. Nie Quanheng nodded in agreement. He looked at Nie Xingyi and said, "The 9-headed Serpent Palace has also received news of the East Sea Lost Palace's unearthing. They definitely won't give up. It's too dangerous for you to go alone. Although you've inherited your mother's bloodline, there's one person here whose bloodline grade is much higher than yours." Nie Xingyi immediately took notice of Nie Xingyi's words. He glanced at Emo Qingyun and the others. Seeing Nie Xingyi's action, Nie Quanheng gestured to Emo Qingyun and said, "Young friend Emo, please release your bloodline pressure and let this kid learn something." "All right." Emo Qingyun nodded. Then, he released his bloodline pressure and crushed down on Nie Xingyi. Under Emo Qingyun's bloodline pressure, Nie Xingyi's expression changed drastically. His eyes were filled with intense shock. Thump, thump, thump. At the same time, Nie Xingyi was also forced to retreat under Emo Qingyun's bloodline pressure. Looking at Nie Xingyi's performance, Nie Quanheng was shocked, and his eyes were filled with shock. When Emo Qinyun released his bloodline pressure to crush the monsters, it was definitely not this strong. I didn't expect him to hold back when he released his bloodline pressure. Although surprised by Emo Qinyun's actions, Nye Quanhang was very satisfied. He nodded at Emo Qinyun in praise. Emo Qinyun's actions seemed to be disrespectful to Nye Xingyi. It was an offense to him. But in Nye Quanhang's opinion, Nye Xingyi was too arrogant. It was good to be suppressed. Amethyst Thunder Dragon Bloodline. Feeling Emo Qinyun's bloodline pressure, Nye Xingyi's expression trembled. He looked at Emo Qinyun in shock. Seeing that Nye Xingyi recognized his bloodline, Emo Qinyun was a little surprised. But he still nodded at him. Emo Qinyun's answer made Nye Xingyi's attitude towards him become much more polite. He said, "Your bloodline grade is higher than mine. Your bloodline purity is also higher than mine. I admit defeat. In that case, you will accompany me into the East Sea Ancient Palace." Nye Xingyi's words made Emo Qinyun slightly happy. His previous worries were completely gone. He was really worried that with Nye Xingyi's interference, he would not be able to enter the East Sea Ancient Palace. Now that even Nye Xingyi had accepted him, there was nothing to worry about. Seeing that Nye Xingyi agreed with Emo Qinyun, the monsters around them were unhappy. They all showed some dissatisfaction. Since you asked for our help, how can you let us leave with just a few words? I am the young lord of the Python Whale Heavenly Palace. How can I be played by you like this? My uncle is an elder of the Iron Teeth Dragon Palace. If you don't give me an explanation, I will definitely tell my uncle about this. The monsters threatened one after another. Seeing the reaction of the monsters, Emo Qinyun frowned slightly and couldn't help but look at Wu Zhang. Just now, this guy had said that if he was not hired, he would secretly deal with the loser. Now, looking at the reaction of these monsters, it seemed that they all had great backgrounds. It would be extremely difficult to deal with them. Seeing that Emo Qinyun was looking at him, Wu Zhang immediately understood. He whispered, "Little friend Emo, don't just look at the surface. Only these guys dare to speak so arrogantly. The other monsters are all silent." Upon hearing Wu Zhang's words, Emo Qinyun nodded. That was indeed the case. Seeing the reaction of the monsters, Nye Quanhang didn't get angry. He asked calmly, "Everyone, tell me, how should I deal with this?" Hearing Nye Quanhang's question, the young lord of the Python Whale Heavenly Palace pointed at Emo Qinyun and said, "It's actually very simple to solve this problem. A powerful bloodline doesn't mean that you are powerful. Let him fight with us. Since he is qualified to participate if we defeat him, won't we also be qualified?" After the young lord of the Python Whale Heavenly Palace finished speaking, the others nodded in agreement. They thought that his suggestion was very good. Chapter 32-34. Young friend Emo, what do you think? Nye Quanhang looked at Emo Qinyun and asked for his opinion. After all, the opponent was Emo Qinyun, so they had to ask for his opinion. If Emo Qinyun was unwilling, then the Python Whale Celestial Palace's young palace master's suggestion could only be dropped. Hearing Nye Quanhang's question, Emo Qinyun glanced at the demons and smiled. "Are you sure you want to challenge me?" Emo Qinyun's question made all the demons unhappy. Their gazes turned cold as they looked at him. Emo Qinyun's reaction seemed to be looking down on them. "Kid, who do you think you are? What's wrong with us challenging you? Don't tell me you're scared? If you are, you should give up your spot. I'll say it again. Bloodline doesn't represent strength. So what if your bloodline is strong?" The monsters mocked and looked down on him. Emo Qinyun shook his head helplessly. "Why do you have to do this? Why do you have to eliminate yourselves?" Emo Qinyun walked out of the hall after he finished speaking. His meaning couldn't be more obvious. He had accepted the monsters' challenge and was ready to spar with them. The monsters in the hall were stunned by Emo Qinyun's action, but they quickly followed him out of the hall. Coming out of the main hall, Nye Xingyi led the way and said, "Follow me, I will take you to the competition venue. Emo Qingyun and the others hurriedly followed Nieshingi. They soon arrived at a huge platform. There were stabilizing formations set up around the platform to prevent the aftermath of the battle from wreaking havoc. Seeing that everyone was ready, Nie Quanhang glanced at the monsters and said, "Who wants to spar with young friend Emo first?" Upon hearing Nie Quanhang's question, the lesser demons exchanged glances. They all wanted someone else to test Emo Qingyun first. Emo Qingyun shook his head impatiently when he saw the hesitant Yao. "There's no need to dawdle. Come at me together." The moment Emo Qingyun's words left his mouth, all the demons exploded in anger. Emo Qingyun actually wanted to challenge so many of them by himself. This was looking down on them too much. "Brat, you're too arrogant. Let me teach you a lesson first." The young palace master of the Viper Whale Sky Palace snorted coldly. With a flicker of his body, he arrived on the platform. Then, he opened his mouth towards Emo Qingyun and inhaled. A terrifying wave of energy exploded. When this divine power burst out, it turned into a huge shadow with a terrifying devouring power. When the shadow was formed, lines of astounding law threads shot out from his body. These threads of law fused into the shadow, increasing the shadow's devouring power. Seeing Ling's performance, Sin Quanhang was slightly stunned. He said, "Ling is a little arrogant, but he's quite strong. I'm afraid Emo Qingyun will be in trouble." While Sin Quanhang was muttering to himself, Emo Qingyun stretched out his palm towards Ling, unleashing an even stronger aura. At the same time, lines of even stronger law threads shot out from Emo Qingyun's palm. "Too weak." Emo Qingyun waved his hand. He shook his head in disappointment and said, "If this is your full strength, I can beat 10 of you with one hand." As Emo Qingyun spoke, a terrifying giant palm that covered the sky pressed down on Lung. So strong. His law fine threads are actually comparable to great deity realm powerhouses. Is this guy really in the sky general realm? Why is he so strong? Looking at Emo Qingyun's performance, the other demons who were watching from the side were all shocked. Even Ye Xingyi's eyes widened when he saw Emo Qingyun's performance. He said, "I've always boasted that I'm a genius, but compared to Emo Qingyun, I'm nothing. I've really been a frog in a well." Under the shocked gazes of the demons, the giant palm crushed down and drowned Ling. Bang! There was a loud noise. Then, a terrifying divine power storm erupted on the high platform. Seeing this scene, everyone was stunned and didn't know what to say. After a while, the divine power storm on the high platform dissipated, and Ling's figure gradually appeared, lying there half dead. Looking at Ling's miserable state, the demons who originally wanted to fight Emo Qingyun all tensed up and remained silent. With Emo Qingyun's strength, even if they attacked together, they probably wouldn't be a match for him. I've already said, let Mr. Emo go alone. Seeing Emo Qingyun's amazing strength, Nie Xingyi's face was full of excitement, as if he was the one who defeated Ling. After defeating Ling with one palm, Emo Qingyun looked at the other demons and said, "Do you still want to continue the battle?" The other demons were silent, and their meaning was very obvious. Seeing that they didn't say anything, Emo Qingyun's figure flashed and came down from the high platform. He said, "You can fight for a spot, but don't get it by trampling on others, especially when you're not familiar with them." After Emo Qingyun finished speaking, he ignored the demons and silently walked to the side. Emo Qingyun's lecture made the demons speechless, and they were a little dissatisfied with Lung. It was all his fault for coming up with such a bad idea, which put them in a dilemma. Seeing that Emo Qingyun had suppressed the demons, Nie Quanhang nodded in satisfaction. He looked at Nie Xingyi and said, "Brat, young friend Emo taught you a lesson today. Remember it well." "Yes." Nie Xingyi nodded in response. Although he was a little arrogant, he was not a fool and knew his own limits. After lecturing Nie Xingyi, Nie Quanhang looked at the other demons and said, "Take Ling away to treat his injuries." The others will compete in the same way as before to determine the remaining 9 spots. After seeing what happened to Lung, Nie Xingyi was no longer arrogant and accepted Nie Kuanghong's arrangement. The East Sea Ancient Palace was full of danger, and it was indeed safer to bring more people with them. Seeing that Nie Kuanghong didn't eliminate them, the remaining demons were pleasantly surprised and went to the high platform to compete. Judging from the current situation, this was an extra opportunity given to them by Nie Kuanghong, and they had to seize it well. Several hours later, after a series of battles between the demons, the remaining 9 spots were revealed. The 9 of them were Mu Chao, Tang Tong, Gong Hanqing, Su Yunping, Han Hanqiu, Zhan Xing, Yi Qi, Shan Yunqing, and Ai Qinghe. Take the others away to treat their injuries, Nie Kuanghong immediately ordered when he saw the eliminated demons. Immediately, the eliminated demons were taken away by Wu Zhang and the other commanders. As for whether they were really treated or secretly dealt with, it was unknown. Seeing that the spots were revealed, Nie Kuanghong didn't want to waste any time and said, "Follow me. I'll take you to the East Sea Ancient Palace now." Hearing this, Mo Qingyun and the others quickly followed him to the East Sea Ancient Palace. Chapter 32-35. About a day later, under Nie Kuangxing's lead, everyone arrived at the East Sea Ancient Palace. The East Sea Ancient Palace was built on the edge of a seamount. It was even larger than the 10,000 demon Imperial Palace. Perhaps because it was too old, some places had been submerged by rocks due to the collapse of the seamount. "Get ready. I'll send you in." After instructing Mo Qingyun and the others, Nie Kuangxing took out a bead and activated it. As Nie Kuangxing activated the bead, it emitted a dazzling light that shone on Mo Qingyun and the others. Immediately, Mo Qingyun felt a tearing force enveloping him. Then, the scene in front of him blurred and he was brought to a new place. As soon as Mo Qingyun and the others entered the East Sea Ancient Palace, a group of 9-headed snake demons rushed over. "Nie Kuangxing, why didn't you share with us when you found such a good place?" At the front of the group of 9-headed snake demons, the most powerful one asked Nie Kuangxing in a proud tone. Hearing his words, Nie Kuangxing snorted and said, "Yang Guolong, don't pretend with me. Your 9-headed dragon palace also got a dragon pearl. Don't think I don't know about it." Yang Guolong's expression froze. He looked at Nie Kuanhang in surprise and said, "Your information is quite accurate. You even know about this. However, there are some things that you don't know. Since your people have gone in, my people can't fall behind." Hearing Yang Guolong's words, Nie Kuangxing snorted coldly and did not argue with him. Seeing that Nie Kuangxing did not speak, Yang Guolong looked at the 2 5-headed snake demons behind him and said, "Yang Wei, Yang Xie, when you enter the East Sea Ancient Palace, remember to take good care of the people of the Evil Dragon Palace." "Yes." The 2 5-headed snake demons answered respectfully. After instructing his people, Yang Guolong did not delay any longer and immediately sent them into the East Sea Ancient Palace. When the people of the 9-headed Dragon Palace entered the East Sea Ancient Palace, there was an obvious fluctuation in the palace's protective array. It felt as if the array was activated and was about to launch a terrifying attack. But for some reason, it stopped. Seeing this, Nie Kuanhang frowned and stared coldly at Yang Guolong. "9-headed reptile, what are you trying to do?" Yang Guolong didn't mind Nie Kuanhang's way of addressing him. He feigned a meaningful smile and said, "Nie Kuanhang, your temper is getting worse and worse. We naturally have to wait for a good show. When my people come out of the Eastern Sea Ancient Palace, you will naturally understand what kind of trick I am playing." Since Yang Guolong didn't tell him anything, Evil Frenzy didn't ask too much. Instead, he tensed up. Just now, the performance of the palace-protecting Grand Array of the East Sea Ancient Palace had made him feel a strong sense of uneasiness. Inside the East Sea Lost Palace. After entering the Eastern Sea Lost Palace, Missouri Qingyun felt a strong sense of resentment pressing down on him. What a shocking amount of resentment! Sensing the resentment around him, Emo Qingyun's expression was slightly surprised. He looked around curiously and said, "What happened in the Eastern Sea Ancient Palace? Why is there such a terrifying amount of resentment?" Hearing Emo Qingyun's words, Niexingyi thought for a moment and said, "The Eastern Sea Ancient Palace was originally one of the top forces in the Sea of Boundaries of the Divine Realm. Rumor has it that it was punished by the Taichu Celestial Court for violating the heavenly rules. Tens of millions of sea clans were wiped out overnight. Because the number of sea clans that were wiped out was too large, endless resentment was generated, so it was sealed away." After hearing Niexingyi's explanation, the doubts in Emo Qingyun's heart were resolved. It was no wonder that the Eastern Sea Ancient Palace, as a major force, had not been discovered until now. When Emo Qingyun's doubts were resolved, he was puzzled again. He asked, "What kind of strength is this Taichu Celestial Palace? How can it punish the Eastern Sea Ancient Palace and wipe out tens of millions of sea clans?" Although Niexingyi was a bit impatient with Emo Qingyun's questions, he still explained, "The Taichu Celestial Palace was once the overlord of the Celestial Realm. All 15 domains of the Celestial Realm were under its rule. Because of the slaughter of a large number of living beings in the destruction of the Eastern Sea Ancient Palace, it aroused the dissatisfaction of the various subordinate forces. Later on, the Taichu Celestial Palace's rule was overthrown under the combined resistance of the various subordinate forces." Emo Qingyun was quite surprised to learn such a secret from Niexingyi. He'd originally thought that the overlords of the Celestial Realm were the 9 great sacred sects and the 9 heavenly demon tribe. Who would have thought that the Taichu Celestial Palace had once reigned above these forces? The resentment here is very strong, everyone be careful. Sensing the resentment in the surroundings, Emo Qingyun reminded the monster spirits around him with a grave expression. The monster spirits were disdainful of Emo Qingyun's reminder and didn't pay it much heed. As for Niexingyi, although he didn't show such a reaction, he also ignored Emo Qingyun's words. Seeing that the monster spirits didn't care, Emo Qingyun didn't say much and ignored them. He'd entered the Eastern Sea Ancient Palace mainly to seek opportunities, not to be a hired thug. He'd already done his duty by reminding the monster spirits out of goodwill. As for whether they listened or not, that had nothing to do with him. After walking with the monster spirits for a while, Emo Qingyun clearly felt that his hands and feet were tied. There are many inconveniences when working with these guys, he thought. It's better to separate from them. Just as Emo Qingyun was thinking this, they encountered a group of people led by 2 5-headed serpents, those from the 9-headed serpent palace. Niexingyi's expression changed when he saw the group of monster spirits in front of him. He recognized them immediately. When Niexingyi recognized them, the other party also recognized him. They immediately sneered proudly and said, "So it's those from the evil dragon palace. I didn't expect to meet you here." When they saw Niexingyi and the other monster spirits, they surrounded them. Their intention couldn't be more obvious. A group of Heaven General Realm guys actually want to compete with us for opportunities. They're really courting death. Hey, isn't this kid Nie Guangxing's son? If he dies here, I wonder what Nie Guangxing will think? I'm sure he'll be very excited. He might even be grateful to us. The monsters from the 9-headed serpent palace were smug. Hearing their words, Niexingyi snorted coldly and said, "Before we fight, it's hard to say who will kill who." As Niexingyi spoke, he looked at Emo Qingyun, obviously hoping that Emo Qingyun would show his invincible might. In his opinion, Emo Qingyun's strength was invincible among the same level of Heaven General Realm. At this moment, Yang Wei of the 9-headed serpent palace sneered complacently. "You think you can fight us with just the likes of you? Is he dreaming?" As Yang Wei spoke, the aura emitted from his body began to climb. In the blink of an eye, the aura they emitted reached the level of the great deity realm. Chapter 32-36. How? How is this possible? How could you hide your strength and enter? Niexingyi was shocked to see Yang Wei and the other demons' performance. He found it hard to believe. Niexingyi's reaction made Yang Wei feel proud. He said, "It's a long time ago. The ancestor of the nine-headed dragon palace was a commander of the East Sea Lost Palace. He was later chased out by the East Sea Lost Palace and founded the nine-headed dragon palace himself. If it weren't for the seal in the East Sea Lost Palace, our heavenly gods would have been able to enter. Speaking of which, our ancestor has to thank them for chasing him out of the East Sea Lost Palace and avoiding that disaster." After listening to Yang Wei's story, Mo Qingyun was shocked. He didn't expect there to be such a secret. It wasn't surprising that the demons of the nine-headed dragon palace could hide their cultivation and enter the East Sea Lost Palace. "Mr. Mo, what do we do now? Can you stop them?" Seeing the situation in front of him, Niexingyi's expression was grave as he whispered to Mo Qingyun. Mo Qingyun was annoyed to hear Niexingyi's words. He rolled his eyes at him and said, "What do you think?" Mo Qingyun's question made Niexingyi speechless. He couldn't help but smile bitterly. His question was simply nonsense. Even if Mo Qingyun's strength was powerful, making him deal with a group of great deity realm powerhouses was also indeed too difficult for him. After asking Niexingyi, Mo Qingyun thought for a while and said, "Wait a moment. I'll try my best to hold them back. You find a chance to leave. As for the others, I can't do anything. They can only pray for themselves." Hearing Mo Qingyun's words, Niexingyi nodded with a grateful expression on his face. Under such circumstances, it was already very rare for Mo Qingyun to be able to do this. "Follow me and break out of the encirclement." As soon as Mo Qingyun finished speaking, his figure flashed and he charged toward a demon of the nine-headed dragon palace. Mo Qingyun was extremely fast. He was in front of him in the blink of an eye and punched him. Sky-shattering Tyrannosaurus fist. Mo Qingyun punched out and a terrifying divine power condensed on his fist. At the same time, lines of astonishing nomological law threads erupted from his body. Seeing Mo Qingyun attack him, the demon of the nine-headed dragon palace immediately shouted angrily, "Kid, you're looking for—" Before he could finish his words, his eyes were filled with shock. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. The number and power of Mo Qingyun's threads of law were a level higher than his. It was completely different from what he knew. So strong. Upon seeing Mo Qingyun's strength, the demon from the nine-headed WRM palace showed some fear. After that, he didn't dare to fight Mo Qingyun head-on, and he prepared to dodge Mo Qingyun's punch. However, Mo Qingyun was too fast. Before he could dodge Mo Qingyun's attack, Mo Qingyun's fist was already nearing him. Mo Qingyun's actions immediately enraged him. He roared, "Kid, if you want to hurt me, you won't be able to escape." Manatee heaven suppressing all. The demon of the nine-headed dragon palace roared angrily and charged toward Mo Qingyun. The moment he took a step forward, the shadow of a huge bull condensed outside his body. Then, he charged toward Mo Qingyun, trying to push Mo Qingyun back. Break. Mo Qingyun did not retreat in the face of his opponent's attack. Instead, he punched the bull shadow's head. Then, there was a loud explosion. The bull shadow dissipated in the blink of an eye. After destroying the bull shadow, Mo Qingyun did not stop. His fists continued to land on his opponent's body. Bam! After being hit by Mo Qingyun's punch, the demon of the nine-headed dragon palace was immediately sent flying. Mo Qingyun's footsteps did not stop at all. He immediately walked over his opponent's body. Mo Qingyun broke through the enemy's encirclement. Niexingyi and the other demons did not hesitate and immediately followed behind him. Soon, Mo Qingyun and the other demons broke through the encirclement and fled back the way they came. As he led everyone away, Emo Chinyan said with a solemn expression, "You are no match for the demons of the nine-headed dragon palace. Leave the East Sea Lost Palace immediately. As long as you leave the East Sea Lost Palace, they will not dare to do anything to you." Upon hearing Emo Chinyan's words, Niexingyi and the other demons revealed indignant expressions. They had entered the East Sea Lost Palace to seek opportunities. How could they leave so easily? At this moment, a tortoise-type monster beast said indignantly, "They may be strong, but we're no pushovers either. As long as Emo Chinyan shares the burden of the three monsters, we might be able to contend with the remaining monsters of the nine-headed WRM Palace." After the tortoise demon finished speaking, a crab demon next to it said, "Young Palace Master Nye, the East Sea Lost Palace is a top force in the Heaven Realm. There must be a lot of treasures here. If we go back, we will miss out on such an opportunity." Niexingyi could not help but be tempted by the demon's persuasion. He turned his head to look at Emo Chinyan and said, "Mr. Emo, you are powerful. Why don't you?" Before Niexingyi could finish, Emo Chinyan's face turned cold. He said, "Young Master Nye, please understand that I am only a helper you invited. I am not a slave of the evil dragon palace. In the current situation, I am already doing my best to take the risk and evacuate with you. If you want to fight for the treasures, please forgive me for not accompanying you. Now that we are close to the exit, you can do as you see fit." After Emo Chinyan finished speaking, his figure flashed and separated from Niexingyi and the other demons. Emo Chinyan's figure flashed a few times and completely disappeared from the eyes of Niexingyi and the other demons. Seeing Emo Chinyan's actions, Niexingyi and the other demons were dumbfounded. They did not expect Emo Chinyan to be so straightforward. Niexingyi was not dissatisfied with Emo Chinyan's actions. He felt that it was normal. Emo Chinyan was only here to help. Now that he had brought them out safely, he had completed his mission. It was a little difficult to continue to let Emo Chinyan take the risk and escort them to search for treasures in the East Sea Lost Palace. Forget it. Niexingyi was also very straightforward and quickly made a decision. In the current situation, it was impossible for them to continue searching for treasures. Immediately, Niexingyi no longer hesitated. He turned and rushed to the exit of the East Sea Lost Palace. Seeing Niexingyi's actions, the other demons who came with him showed hesitation. Mu Chao, Tang Tong, Su Yunping and the other demons hesitated for a while. Then they followed Niexingyi and fled to the exit of the East Sea Lost Palace. The other demons stayed, ready to risk everything and see if they could gain something. Immediately, Gong Hanqing and Han Han begged the demons to stay, but they were chased by the demons of the nine-headed dragon palace. They fled in the East Sea Lost Palace. Emo Chinyan did not know what Niexingyi and the other demons were doing. At this moment, he was already deep in the East Sea Lost Palace. Chapter 32-37. As he went deeper into the East Sea Ancient Palace, Missouri Chinyan found that the aura of resentment around him was becoming more and more intense. Some of the aura of resentment in front of him had almost solidified. Upon seeing this, Emo Chinyan slowed down his footsteps and raised his guard. The aura of resentment in front of him gave him a strong sense of danger, as if it would engulf him at any time. If I want to continue forward, I have to disperse this aura of resentment. Looking at the aura of resentment in front of him, Emo Chinyan did not hesitate at all and immediately slammed his palm forward. Immediately, a terrifying divine power blasted out from Emo Chinyan's palm. Chi Chi Chi. The divine power blasted into the aura of resentment and was immediately corroded by the aura of resentment, turning into a mist and dissipating. Such a situation shocked Emo Chinyan quite a bit, and his mood became even heavier. From this, it could be seen how terrifying the aura of resentment was. It was more terrifying than he had imagined. Even divine power is corroded. I hope it doesn't corrode the nomological thread. With a strong sense of expectation, Mo Qingyun summoned the nomological threads and blasted them into the aura of resentment in front of him. As soon as the nomological threads touched the aura of resentment, the same thing happened. They were wildly corroded by the aura of resentment. However, the nomological threads were more powerful than divine power and were not completely corroded in a short time. However, judging from the situation of the nomological thread's corrosion, it probably would not last long. Even the nomological threads can't disperse it. Do I have to stop here? Seeing the terrifying aura of resentment in front of him, Mo Qingyun frowned, and his heart suddenly sank. Now that things had come to this point, he was really unwilling to stop. Immediately, Mo Qingyun paced back and forth, thinking about how to disperse the aura of resentment. While Mo Qingyun was pondering, several silhouettes ran towards him. Behind them was a large group of silhouettes. They didn't leave. Looking at the figures running toward him, Mo Qingyun frowned, and a sense of surprise rose in his heart. He originally thought that Niexingyi and the other demons would have left under the pursuit of the nine-headed dragon palace. Unexpectedly, there were still a few demons who were not afraid of death and stayed to continue exploring. Mr. Mo is in front. We're saved now. Seeing Mo Qingyun in front of them, Gong Hanqing and the other demons were pleasantly surprised, and they sped up. In the blink of an eye, they arrived beside Mo Qingyun and hid behind Mo Qingyun. Looking at their posture, it was obvious that they wanted to use Mo Qingyun as a shield. Seeing the actions of these demons, Mo Qingyun's expression turned cold. He was somewhat displeased with them. He had no friendship with these fellows, so he had no obligation to block a blade for them. Soon after, Mo Qingyun separated from them, maintaining a certain distance. After exchanging a few words with the demons, Mo Qingyun's attention landed on the resentment in front of him again. Seeing Mo Qingyun's reaction, Gong Hanqing and the others immediately wore unpleasant expressions. Before Gong Hanqing and the others could express their dissatisfaction, the group of nine-headed Serpent Palace's demonic beasts arrived in front of Mo Qingyun and the others. Hey! This guy has been here for a long time. He's so fast. Seeing Mo Qingyun on the side, Yang Wei was surprised and looked at Mo Qingyun curiously. Looking away from Mo Qingyun, Yang Wei looked at the resentment in front of him and sneered proudly. Why aren't you running anymore? Weren't you running very fast just now? Hearing Yang Wei's question, Gong Hanqing and the others looked at Mo Qingyun with solemn expressions and begged. Mr. Mo, we're all from the evil dragon demonic palace. You can't leave us to die. That's right. If we're killed, you won't be able to escape either. I'm the son of an elder of the Sky Shark sect. If you don't save me, I won't let this go. While Gong Hanqing and the others were begging for help, they were also threatening Mo Qingyun. Seeing the demonic beast's behavior, Mo Qingyun's disgust for them intensified. I already reminded you to leave the East Sea Ancient Palace as soon as possible. You didn't listen. How can you blame me now? Mo Qingyun looked at Yang Wei and the others and said, If you want to deal with them, I'm not interested. But don't bother me. Mo Qingyun ignored the demonic beasts and looked at the resentment in front of him again. Seeing Mo Qingyun's attitude, Gong Hanqing and the others were furious and glared at him. However, with the nine-headed Serpent Palace's demonic beasts around, they didn't dare act rashly. You know your place. Yang Xie smiled proudly and nodded in satisfaction when he heard Mo Qingyun's words. Mo Qingyun wasn't weak. If he interfered, they would be in trouble. Now, they were happy that Mo Qingyun wasn't willing to interfere. Yang Xie said to Yang Wei and the other demonic beasts, We have important matters to attend to. Don't waste our time because of these guys. Let's get rid of them first. Yang Xie and the nine-headed Serpent Palace's demonic beasts attacked Gong Hanqing and the others. Soon, Gong Hanqing and the others were beaten up and could be killed at any time. Mo Qingyun didn't care about their situation at all. He condensed a ball of flame in his hand and thought, The fire of civilization is called the origin flame. The level of his flame is extremely high. Perhaps it can dispel the resentment. With this thought, Mo Qingyun slammed his palm forward and blasted out a ball of origin flame. Crackle, crackle, the origin flame blasted into the resentment and immediately made a crisp sound, like dry firewood being burned. At the same time, miserable screams were heard from the resentment. "Ah! Damn brat, how dare he use the origin flame to burn us? Damn brat, I'll remember this. Ah! I don't want to die, I can't accept this." Horrifying screams were transmitted into everyone's ears from the resentment. Seeing this, not only were Gong Hanqing and the others stunned, but even the demonic beasts of the nine-headed serpent palace were stunned. None of them had expected such a situation. It was completely beyond their expectations. It's effective. Compared to the demonic beast's shock, Mo Qingyun was pleasantly surprised and immediately rushed into the resentment. Seeing Mo Qingyun's action, Gong Hanqing, Zhan Sheng, Yi Qi, and Shan Yunqing immediately rushed into the resentment. However, when the demons charged into the resentment, they were quickly swallowed up by it. The demonic beasts screamed as they were swallowed by the resentment. Their bodies mutated rapidly. In just a moment, they became extremely ferocious and emitted a monstrous resentment. Not only that, but the aura they emitted was also rising rapidly. "All of you must die." As the aura of the demonic beasts rose, they spoke coldly in a hoarse voice. Seeing such a situation, the demonic beasts of the nine-headed heavenly palace were struck with fear. The current situation had already exceeded his expectations and the scope of their control. End of chapter. Chapter 32-38. Outside the East Sea Ancient Palace. Nie Xingyi and the other demons followed Mo Qingyun's suggestion and came out of the East Sea Ancient Palace. Seeing Nie Xingyi and the other demons come out, Nie Quanhong's face darkened and he was very displeased. He didn't expect Nie Xingyi and the other demons to come out so quickly. What's going on? Why did they come out so quickly? Recalling Yang Guolong's words, Nie Quanhong's face darkened and he asked Nie Xingyi and the other demons. In his opinion, Nie Xingyi and the other demons came out so quickly because of the nine-headed dragon palace. Hearing Nie Quanhong's question, Nie Xingyi's face tensed up and he said, "Father, the ancestor of the nine-headed dragon palace has some connection with the East Sea Ancient Palace. He was once a commander of the East Sea Ancient Palace. Because he was driven out of the East Sea Ancient Palace, he established the nine-headed dragon palace. Although so many years have passed, they still have a way to enter the East Sea Ancient Palace. The people who entered the East Sea Ancient Palace were all great gods. We were forced to come out of the East Sea Ancient Palace." Nie Xingyi's narration shocked Nie Quanhong. Obviously, he didn't expect there to be such a secret. Immediately, he turned to look at Yang Guolong and said coldly, "Yang Guolong, you're sinister. I'll remember this." In Nie Quanhong's opinion, Yang Guolong had a way to let the great gods enter the East Sea Ancient Palace. However, he didn't show it. He was waiting for the people of the evil dragon demonic palace to go in so that he could give them a hard time. Yang Guolong didn't care about Nie Quanhong's anger at all. He said, "Nie Quanhong, what do you mean by this? If we really want to talk about it, the East Sea Lost Palace belongs to the nine-headed serpent palace. I'm doing you a huge favor by letting your people in." Hearing Yang Guolong's words, Nie Quanhong snorted again and silently remembered this. Ignoring Yang Guolong, Nie Quanhong turned his head and looked at Nie Xingyi curiously. He asked, "You guys came out. Where did the others go?" Nie Xingyi replied, "Mr. Mo covered us to the exit. Gong Hanqing and the other demons wanted him to continue protecting us and explore the lost palace of Donghai. In the end, this angered Mr. Mo, and Mr. Mo left immediately." Next, Nie Xingyi explained everything that had happened in the East Sea Ancient Palace. After listening to Nie Xingyi's explanation, Nie Quanghong nodded and said, "This Emo Qingyun is not bad. He has his own principles. I owe him a favor this time. As for the life and death of Gong Hanqing and the other demons, we don't have to care. They asked for it." Nie Xingyi nodded, agreeing with Evil Frenzy. Next, they stood guard outside the East Sea Lost Palace, waiting for Emo Qingyun and the other demons to come out. Inside the East Sea Lost Palace. Retreat. Seeing the changes in Gong Hanqing's demonic beasts, Yang Wei didn't dare to stay any longer. He immediately led Yang Xie and the other demonic beasts away. In just a brief moment, the auras of Gong Hanqing and the beasts were close to the Heaven God realm. It would not be long before they broke through to the Heaven God realm and had the combat power of a Heaven God. Once Gong Hanqing and the other demons had the combat power of a Heaven God, they would be in a bad situation. They might even die here. Yang Wei and the others were very decisive. In the blink of an eye, they disappeared and retreated to the exit of the East Sea Lost Palace. "Where do you think you're going? My sect died so miserably. Don't think you'll have it easy. I'm so lonely. Stay with me." Seeing that Yang Wei and the others were about to leave, Gong Hanqing and the other demons shouted angrily and chased after them. When Gong Hanqing and the others chased after them, they were still crying and screaming. It was chilling. However, it seemed that they were no longer themselves. Their minds had been tainted by resentment. Gong Hanqing and the other demons were extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, they caught up with Yang Wei and the others and quickly closed the distance between them. Seeing that Gong Hanqing and the others were getting closer and closer, the demons of the nine-headed dragon palace panicked. They were at a loss. "Young lord, you go first. We'll stop them." Seeing that Gong Hanqing and the others were getting closer and closer, Yang Wei, Yang Xie, and the other demons immediately went to intercept them. Seeing that their subordinates had gone to intercept Gong Hanqing and the others, Yang Wei and the other demons did not dare to delay and fled at full speed to the exit of the East Sea Lost Palace. With the two demons running at full speed, they quickly reached the exit and rushed in. Whoosh! The scene before them blurred and they left the East Sea Lost Palace. Seeing that Yang Wei and Yang Xie had come out, Yang Guolong was shocked and had a strong sense of uneasiness. He could see that something must have happened in the East Sea Lost Palace from the sorry state of Yang Wei and Yang Xie. It seems that the evil dragon palace is not the only unlucky one. Seeing Yang Wei and Yang Xie, Nie Quanhang smiled proudly and felt much better. The nine-headed dragon palace had returned empty-handed. This was the happiest thing for him. Humph! Yang Guolong snorted at Nie Quanhang's mockery and continued to ask Yang Wei and Yang Xie, "Tell me, what happened in the East Sea Lost Palace?" Hearing Yang Guolong's question, Yang Wei answered, "Originally, we had trapped the guys from the evil dragon palace with the advantage of our realm. But there was a boy in the evil dragon palace who was so strong that he crushed Gu Ling with his heaven general realm cultivation. That brat defeated Gu Ling and fled with the people of the evil dragon demonic palace. We chased him all the way to this place." Under the gazes of the demons, Yang Wei recounted the incident without missing a single detail. After hearing Yang Wei's words, not only was Yang Guolong shocked, but Nie Quanhang was also shocked. They did not expect the resentment in the East Sea Lost Palace to be so terrifying. "It seems that Mr. Mo saved me twice." Hearing Yang Wei and Yang Wei's words, Nie Xingyi felt a lingering fear. Nie Quanhang frowned and thought, "It seems that I still underestimated him. I didn't expect him to have such a trick up his sleeve." Compared to Nie Quanhang and his son's shock and exclamation, Yang Guolong's face was gloomy. He said angrily, "Damn that boy, how dare he ruin my plan. If he dies in the East Sea Lost Palace, I'll let it go. If he comes out of the East Sea Lost Palace, I'll definitely teach him a lesson." Yang Guolong felt that if Emo Qingyun had not saved Nie Xingyi and the other demons, there would not have been such an unforeseen event. Looking at the angry Yang Guolong, Nie Quanhang was secretly pleased. He said, Yang Guolong, Mr. Mo is from the evil dragon palace. If you want to attack him, you'll have to ask my fist first. Nie Quanhang's attitude made Yang Guolong furious, but he did not refute. Then, the demons waited outside the East Sea Lost Palace, waiting for Mo Qingyun to come out. As far as they knew, Mo Qingyun was the only survivor in the East Sea Lost Palace. Chapter 32-39. Under the siege of Gong Hanqing and the other demons, the remaining demons of the nine-headed dragon palace were slaughtered in the blink of an eye. After slaughtering the demons of the nine-headed dragon palace, Gong Hanqing and the other demons did not stay behind and immediately rushed into the interior of the East Sea Ancient Palace. Soon, they rushed into the resentment, but they were no longer afraid of the erosion of resentment. If one observed carefully, they would discover that the direction they were heading in was the direction Mo Qingyun went. Mo Qingyun did not know about the arrival of Gong Hanqing and the other demons. Now, he was searching one palace after another. After searching several palaces in a row, Mo Qingyun's harvest was not great. He did not encounter anything precious. Looks like when the East Sea Ancient Palace was destroyed, the precious items in the palace were all taken away. Coming out of a palace, Missouri Qingyun showed a disappointed expression. He was very dissatisfied with his harvest. At this moment, Mo Qingyun was about to enter the next palace to see if there were any gains when several figures approached him rapidly. As soon as these figures approached, they erupted with a terrifying aura, crushing toward Mo Qingyun. Great God! No, this is the aura of a celestial god. Several celestial god powerhouses are approaching. Sensing the aura that enveloped him, Mo Qingyun's expression turned solemn, and he immediately raised his guard. Now, he did not have the 100 battle heaven-splitting armor. Facing celestial god powerhouses, there was still some danger. Just as Mo Qingyun was on guard, he saw the owners of these auras clearly and said in shock, "It's actually them." Looking at them, they seemed to have lost consciousness. While Mo Qingyun was cursing in his heart, Gong Hanqing and the other demons approached and flew toward him together. "You deserve to die. I'm going to kill you. You've caused me so much trouble. I'm going to drag you to the grave with me." Hoarse voices came out from the mouths of Gong Hanqing and the other demons. Hearing their voices, Mo Qingyun's expression turned solemn, and he hurriedly pulled away from them. When Mo Qingyun retreated, a puzzled feeling arose in his heart, and he thought to himself, "What's wrong with these guys? How did it become like this?" Without the 100 battle heaven-splitting armor, Mo Qingyun's defense was greatly reduced, but his speed was still extremely fast. As he retreated at full speed, the speed of Gong Hanqing and the other demons could not be compared to his. Mo Qingyun's figure flashed a few times before he shook off Gong Hanqing and the other demons and escaped their perception. A moment later, Mo Qingyun came to a palace and continued his search. He wanted to see if he could find anything. After searching for a while, Mo Qingyun showed a disappointed expression. There was still nothing in the palace. After a few fruitless searches, Mo Qingyun came to a conclusion. He thought to himself, based on the current situation, there should not be any treasures in these ordinary palaces. I can only take a look at the secret vaults and see if there are any treasures that slipped through the net. With such thoughts in mind, Mo Qingyun did not waste any more time on the palace and began to search for the secret vault of the East Sea Lost Palace. While Mo Qingyun was searching for the secret vault, he met Gong Hanqing and the other demons again. They were moving around like zombies. However, their current cultivation base was much stronger than before. All of them had advanced to the mid and late heavenly god realm. At this rate, it would not take long for them to advance to the divine king realm. Sensing the strength of Gong Hanqing and the other demons, Mo Qingyun was shocked and a strong sense of uneasiness arose in his heart. He thought to himself, "This can't go on. Once they advance to the Divine King realm, I will be in danger. I must get rid of them so that I can search the East Sea Lost Palace in peace, and look for the treasures and wealth that I have missed. Mo Qingyun thought and made a decision. He was ready to launch a counterattack. It was not his style to keep evading and evading. It was okay to retreat strategically once in a while, but to keep evading and evading was not what Mo Qingyun wanted. The sealed gate. Mo Qingyun's figure flashed and came in front of Han Hanqiu, slapping him with his palm. Immediately, a light gate with a restrained aura blasted out from Mo Qingyun's palm. The sealed gate blasted into Han Hanqiu's body, and the aura that Han Hanqiu exuded began to weaken rapidly. In a few breaths, the aura that he exuded fell back to the level of a great god. Mo Qingyun didn't stop there. He continued to attack Gong Hanqing and the other demons. When Han Hanqiu was attacked by Mo Qingyun, Gong Hanqing and the other demons were immediately alarmed and rushed towards Mo Qingyun. However, with Mo Qingyun's speed, how could they catch up with Mo Qingyun? Soon. Under Mo Qingyun's continuous attacks, the cultivation of Gong Hanqing and the other demons were all suppressed. After suppressing the cultivation of Gong Hanqing and the other demonic beasts, Mo Qingyun's lips curled up. A strong battle intent arose. He said, "Only the cultivation of the great god realm. I can fight with them." As soon as Mo Qingyun finished speaking, he moved and attacked Han Hanqiu, who was closest to him. When he arrived in front of Han Hanqiu, Mo Qingyun punched out and a terrifying divine power erupted. Then, the divine power mixed with the threads of laws crushed down on Han Hanqiu. Boom! A loud sound was heard. Under Mo Qingyun's punch, Han Hanqiu was directly blasted into the ground and could not get up for a long time. Looking at him, even if he broke free from the ground, he probably did not have much combat strength left. Seeing the power of his attack, Mo Qingyun had a rough understanding of his situation. As long as he did not fight against a group of demons, it would not be difficult for him to deal with them one by one. With this thought in mind, Mo Qingyun stopped thinking about it and began to attack them from all directions. With Mo Qingyun's speed that was comparable to a god king's, it was not difficult for him to dodge the attacks of Gong Hanqing and the other demons. Moreover, Gong Hanqing and the others had now lost their consciousness. At this moment, they were like cows that were led by the nose by Mo Qingyun and did everything according to Mo Qingyun's instructions. Just like that. About an hour later, under Mo Qingyun's attack, Gong Hanqing and the other demons were killed. Although Gong Hanqing and the others were killed, to Mo Qingyun's surprise, their aura was still slowly rising. Looking at the corpses of Gong Hanqing and the other demons in front of him, Mo Qingyun's heart skipped a beat and he had a bold idea. These guys are now at the heavenly god realm. It should be good to refine them into demon deities. With this idea in mind, Mo Qingyun began to refine them without hesitation. He thought, I wonder if their strength will increase after I refine them into demon deities and throw them into resentment. Refining them into demon deities will be a good gain from this trip to the East Sea Ancient Palace, even if there are no other gains. With this thought, Mo Qingyun's mood improved and he focused on refining Gong Hanqing and the others. A month passed quickly. After a month of hard work, Gong Hanqing and the other demons were all refined. What made Mo Qingyun happy was that even if they were refined into demon deities, their strength still seemed to increase in resentment. Seeing this, Mo Qingyun began to wait for them to advance to the God King realm. Chapter 3240. The 5 demon deities need to absorb more resentment to advance to the Divine King realm. Looking at the 5 demon deities in front of him, Mo Qingyun decided to ignore them and take advantage of this time to search the secret vault. Mo Qingyun had just turned around when he suddenly had a new idea. Millions of living beings in the East Sea Lost Palace have been annihilated. There are many remnant souls here. I can use the gate of reincarnation to revive one to lead the way. With this thought in mind, Emo Qingyun no longer hesitated and immediately used the Gate of Reincarnation. Soon, a great god of the Dragon Clan walked out of the Gate of Reincarnation. Emo Qingyun revived the Dragon Clan because the Dragon Clan was the real master of the East Sea Lost Palace. Compared to other living beings, the Dragon Clan was more likely to know the location of the secret vault. Aolai greets my benefactor. The five-clawed white dragon walked out of the Gate of Reincarnation and bowed respectfully to Emo Qingyun. Emo Qingyun waved his hand indifferently in response to Aolai's bow and said, "No need to be so polite. I resurrected you because I need your help. Please speak, my benefactor." Aolai looked like he was all ears. Emo Qingyun did not stand on ceremony and directly told him his thoughts. "I resurrected you because I want you to tell me where the secret vault of the East Sea Lost Palace is." Emo Qingyun's frankness and straightforwardness made Aolai look at him with even more kindness and admiration. Compared to those who tried to hide things, Emo Qingyun's frank words showed his magnanimity and integrity. "Benefactor, you are in a hurry to find the secret vault. Are you in urgent need of cultivation resources?" Looking at Emo Qingyun in front of him, Aolai thought for a while and asked Emo Qingyun. Emo Qingyun nodded and said, "That's right. I used up all my cultivation resources not long ago. I came to the East Sea Lost Palace this time to replenish them." "Do you know where the secret vault of the East Sea Lost Palace is?" Those who were resurrected through the Gate of Reincarnation would lose part of their memories from their previous lives. Emo Qingyun was a little worried now. Aolai's lost memories of his past life were related to the secret vault. "I know." Aolai nodded and said, "Benefactor, please follow me. I'll take you to the treasury." As soon as Aolai finished speaking, his body moved, preparing to rush out of the region of the fire of civilization and enter the boundless resentment. "Wait." Seeing Aolai's actions, Emo Qingyun immediately shouted loudly, stopping his footsteps. Hearing Emo Qingyun's shout, Aolai was very puzzled and turned to look at him. Emo Qingyun waved his arm and opened a gap in the fire of civilization. The East Sea Lost Palace is now filled with endless resentment. If you rush in recklessly, you will be eroded by the resentment. While Emo Qingyun was explaining, he raised his finger and pointed at Gong Hanqing and the other demons. They were eroded by the resentment and became like this. Hearing Emo Qingyun's explanation, Aolai felt a sense of lingering fear in his heart and felt some gratitude toward Emo Qingyun. If not for Emo Qingyun's reminder, he would not have ended up well if he rushed into the resentment. Seeing that Aolai understood, Emo Qingyun said to him, "Stay in the region of the fire of civilization and guide me." "Okay." Aolai nodded. Immediately, Emo Qingyun and Aolai went to the secret vault of the East Sea Lost Palace. About an hour later, under Aolai's guidance, Emo Qingyun came to a treasure vault. However, to Emo Qingyun's disappointment, the treasure vault had been emptied. Not a single coin was left. Aolai was helpless in the face of such a situation. He said, "It seems that those people destroyed my Eastern Sea Dragon Palace and emptied our treasury." Sigh. Aolai's answer disappointed Emo Qingyun, and he could not help but sigh. It seemed that this trip to the East Sea Lost Palace would only yield a few demon immortals. Although there's nothing else, having a demon immortal by my side is better than nothing. Emo Qingyun comforted himself in his heart, and his mood improved a lot. The disappointment he felt just now was swept away. If Gong Hanqing and the other demons could break through to the Divine King realm, he would basically be unimpeded in the Sea of Dividing Realms. As for the pursuit of the Soul Summoner Patriarch and Divine King Xing he would not have any concerns. "Let's leave." Seeing that the treasure vault had been emptied, Emo Qingyun did not want to stay any longer and walked out. As Emo Qingyun walked out of the treasure vault, Aolai suddenly said, "Benefactor, although the treasure vault of the East Sea Dragon Palace has been emptied, I'm afraid that some of the secret vaults may not have been found. I'll take you there. Okay. Hearing this, Emo Chinyun was pleasantly surprised and looked forward to it. Immediately, Emo Chinyun followed behind Aolai and searched the East Sea Dragon Palace. Just as Aolai had said, some of the secret vaults had not been completely plundered. Next, as Emo Chinyun plundered, he slowly gained some benefit. He obtained some cultivation resources and celestial crystals. Although the amount wasn't particularly large, the number of sky crystals on Emo Chinyun's body had once again exceeded 3 million. The East Sea Ancient Palace was very large, and there were countless palaces of various sizes. Even with Aolai leading the way, Emo Chinyun spent nearly 2 months to search the entire East Sea Ancient Palace. In these 2 months, Emo Chinyun's harvest was very gratifying and far exceeded his expectations. Now, the number of heaven crystals in his possession had once again broken through the 30 million mark. As for the various cultivation resources, there were countless of them. Many of them were unique to the Sea of Dividing Realms in the Divine Territory. In addition, Emo Chinyun also obtained a few powerful superpowers in the East Sea Ancient Palace. These superpowers are all at the Heavenly God and Divine King level. They are much stronger than the Tyrant Dragon Sky-Shattering Fist. Looking at the superpowers in his hands, Emo Chinyun was pleasantly surprised and looked forward to it. He said, "What I lack now is powerful superpowers. Now that I have obtained these superpowers, they make up for my shortcoming." Emo Chinyun muttered to himself. He no longer hesitated and began to cultivate the superpowers. Heavenly God superpowers. Divine Lightning Dragon Transforming Wave. Under execution, divine power transforms into a primordial black dragon, causing terrifying destructive power. Divine King Elementary Divine Ability. Black Fiend Dragon Sky Devouring Roar. Divine power transforms into a black fiend dragon, swallowing heaven and earth, intimidating the divine soul. Under Emo Chinyun's reading, the information of the superpowers entered his line of sight one after another. Sweeping through the superpowers, Emo Chinyun no longer hesitated and picked up the Divine Lightning Dragon Transforming Wave first and began to cultivate. This superpower's grade was the lowest. It was the easiest to cultivate and required the least amount of time. Seeing Emo Chinyun cultivate, Aolai guarded by the side and also cultivated to adapt to his body. Chapter 32-41. Time passed by quickly. 3 months passed unknowingly as Emo Chinyun cultivated wholeheartedly. After 3 months of cultivation, Emo Chinyun comprehended the Divine Thunder Dragon Transformation Wave. He had yet to fully master the Divine King-level Dark Demonic Dragon Sky Devouring Roar. He could only barely cast it. As for the other divine abilities, Emo Chinyun had yet to cultivate them as he did not want to bite off more than he could chew. In the blink of an eye, it's been almost half a year since I entered the East Sea Ancient Palace. It's time to leave. Emo Chinyun stood up and walked towards the divine specters. He put them away and left the East Sea Ancient Palace. Soon, Emo Chinyun arrived in front of the divine specters and sensed their aura. Gong Hanqing, Zhan Xing, and Shan Yunqing's cultivation have reached the Divine King level. Han Hanqiu and Yi Qi are still a little short. After sensing the cultivation of the divine specters, Emo Chinyun showed a hesitant expression, considering whether to wait a little longer. While Emo Chinyun was thinking, he was also observing the changes in Han Hanqiu and Yi Qi's aura. After observing for a while, Emo Chinyun gave up waiting and decided to leave the East Sea Ancient Palace immediately. He found that there was almost no change in Han Hanqiu and Yi Qi's aura. This also meant that the increase in their cultivations had reached a limit. In this way, he did not know how long it would take for them to break through to the Divine King level. Emo Chinyun raised his hand and put away all 5 divine specters. He turned to look at Aolai and said, "I'm ready to leave the East Sea Ancient Palace. What are your plans next?" Hearing Emo Chinyun's words, Aolai hesitated for a moment and said, "If you don't mind, Aolai is willing to follow you and obey your orders from now on." Seeing Aolai's action, Emo Chinyun showed a hesitant expression, considering whether to bring him along. Aolai's cultivation was only at the great divine realm. Emo Chinyun did not have much use for him to travel with him. "In that case, you can follow me." Emo Chinyun thought about it and decided to bring Aolai along. On the way, if he cultivated, he could let Aolai control the flying boat. Then, Emo Chinyun and Aolai rushed out of the East Sea Ancient Palace. Outside the East Sea Lost Palace. Although half a year had passed, the people from the Evil Dragon Palace and the Nine-Headed Dragon Palace were still waiting outside. Looking at the East Sea Ancient Palace in front of him, Nye Quanhang shook his head helplessly and said, "It's been half a year, but little friend Mo still hasn't come out. He's probably dead. There's no point in continuing to wait. Let's go back to the Evil Dragon Demonic Palace." When Yang Guolong heard Evil Maniac's words, a look of disappointment appeared on his face. He no longer had the patience to wait. The main reason he'd insisted on staying behind was because he'd been watching Nye Quanhong and the other demons. Now that he saw Nye Quanhong's current state, he didn't want to stay any longer and waste his time. "Get ready. We're going back too." Yang Guolong stood up and informed Yang Wei and the other demons before taking out the flying boat. At this moment, when the two sides were about to leave, there was a wave of energy fluctuation at the exit of the East Sea Ancient Palace. Sensing the movement at the exit of the East Sea Ancient Palace, Nye Quanhang, Yang Guolong, and the other demons trembled and turned their heads to look. Then, two figures appeared in a flash and entered their sight. Mr. Mo. Seeing Emo Chinyun come out, Nye Quanhang was surprised and shocked. He didn't expect Emo Chinyun to come out of the East Sea Ancient Palace at this time. As for Aolai, Nye Quanhang didn't ask much about it. He planned to ask in detail later. Seeing Emo Chinyun come out of the East Sea Ancient Palace, Yang Guolong also showed a surprised smile on his face and said, "Boy, you came out at the right time. If you had come out for a while, I might have left. It seems that the heavens are looking after me. What you got in the East Sea Ancient Palace will be given to me after all." Seeing Yang Guolong's reaction, Nye Quanhong's expression became serious and he stood in front of Emo Chinyun. Seeing Nye Quanhong's action, Yang Guolong's face darkened and a strong anger arose. He could naturally see that Nye Quanhang was going to make things difficult for him and was ready to shield Emo Chinyun. Seeing that Nye Quanhang dared to make a move, Yang Guolong didn't immediately make a move. Instead, he sneered and said, "Nye Quanhang, are you going to burn the bridge after crossing the river? Are you going to take all the treasures that boy got?" Hearing Yang Guolong's words, Nye Quanhong's face darkened and he shouted, "Yang Guolong, don't slander me. I won't be like you and covet the things of a junior." Yang Guolong didn't care about Nye Quanhong's defense at all. He turned his head to look at Emo Chinyun and said with a smile, "Boy, do you really think that Nye Quanhang is protecting you now? He has already discussed with me before. After you come out, I will divide the things you got from the East Sea Ancient Palace equally with him. I just didn't expect that he would go back on his word and want to take all the things that you have." Yang Guolong's words angered Nye Quanhang and he shouted, "Yang Guolong, don't talk nonsense. I'm not a despicable person like you." Yang Guolong didn't care about Nye Quanhang's defense at all. He still looked at Emo Chinyun with a faint smile and said, "What's the use of explaining to me? You should explain to that boy." Immediately, Nye Quanhang looked at Emo Chinyun and wanted to explain to Emo Chinyun. Before Nye Quanhang could say anything, Emo Chinyun raised his hand and interrupted him. "Palace Master Nye, you don't have to explain to me. I'm on your side, so I might not be robbed by you. But if I'm on his side, I'm bound to be robbed by him. I know how to choose." Emo Chinyun's answer made Nye Quanhang happy. He looked at Yang Guolong proudly. It seemed that it was impossible for Yang Guolong to sow discord. Yang Guolong's expression changed when he saw this. He hesitated for a while before saying, "Boy, I hope you won't regret it later and be deceived by someone's disguise." After Yang Guolong finished speaking, he left the East Sea Ancient Palace with the people of the Nine-Headed Dragon Palace. Emo Qingyun didn't care about Yang Guolong's words at all. Now that he had 3 Divine King Realm ghosts under his control, it wouldn't be easy for Nie Quanhang to do anything to him. Nie Quanhang's expression relaxed when he saw Yang Guolong leave. He said, "Little friend Emo, it seems that you're fine. That's great. Thank you for saving Nie Xingyi's life so many times. I'm just fulfilling my promise." Emo Qingyun didn't mind Nie Quanhang's gratitude. He waved his hand and said, "Palace Master Nie, I still have matters to attend to. I can't stay here for long. I'll bid you farewell." As soon as Emo Qingyun finished speaking, he took out his flying boat and prepared to leave with Ao Lai. Chapter 3242. Wait! Seeing Emo Qingyun's action, Nie Quanhang's expression changed and he hurriedly shouted at Emo Qingyun. Emo Qingyun frowned when he heard Nie Quanhang's words. He looked at him curiously and said, "Palace Master Nie, is there anything else you need from me? Based on my understanding of Yang Guolong, he won't give up so easily. I'll escort you out of the East Sea." Nie Quanhang stopped Emo Qingyun and expressed his thoughts to Emo Qingyun with a concerned expression. "You've helped twice in the Lost Palace of the East Sea. I don't have anything to give you, so take this as my thanks." Emo Qingyun felt grateful when he heard Nie Quanhang's words. He said, "Palace Lord Nie, I appreciate your kindness, but there's no need for you to escort me out of the Eastern Sea. I can protect myself. If Yang Guolong doesn't know what's good for him, I'll make him suffer." Emo Qingyun's response shook Nie Quanhang to the core, and his expression changed drastically. He could feel that Emo Qingyun's aura had changed greatly after coming out of the Lost Palace of the East Sea. It seems that he encountered a great opportunity in the Lost Palace of the East Sea. Thinking of this, Nie Quanhang stopped trying to persuade Emo Qingyun. He agreed and said, "Young friend Emo, I will remember your kindness. If you have time in the future, you can come to the Evil Dragon Demonic Palace often. Let me show my hospitality as a host." Emo Qingyun nodded indifferently at Nie Quanhang's kindness and left on the boat. Seeing Emo Qingyun's figure disappear, Nie Quanhang retracted his gaze and said, Although little friend Emo was born in the periphery, he's a true dragon among men. Just one experience in the Lost Palace of the East Sea is enough for him to be reborn. If I'm not wrong, it won't be long before his name spreads throughout the Sea of Dividing Realms." Nie Xingyi was shocked when he heard Nie Quanhang's comment. He said, "Dad, I can see that Mr. Emo is excellent, but is he as good as you said? Exaggerated?" Nie Quanhang chuckled and didn't explain. Sweeping his gaze over Mu Chao and the others, Nie Quanhang said, "Since the matter with the East Sea Lost Palace is over, let's head back." With that, Nie Quanhang led Mu Chao and the others back to the Evil Dragon Palace. At the other side, Emo Qingyun separated from Nie Quanhang and the other monsters. He steered the Shadowsword airship to the west of the Sea of Dividing Divine Realm. However, Emo Qingyun did not go far before he was targeted by a group of people. "That kid is actually separated from Nie Quanhang. The heavens are really helping me." After learning of Emo Qingyun's whereabouts, Yang Guolong was pleasantly surprised. He immediately led his men to chase after Emo Qingyun. About 2 hours later, under the pursuit of Yang Guolong and the other monsters, they caught up with Emo Qingyun and blocked Emo Qingyun's path. Seeing that his path was blocked, Emo Qingyun did not show any emotion. He looked ahead calmly. With his current combat strength, Yang Guolong and the other monsters would only be courting death if they tried to stop him. "I thought you would seek protection from Nie Quanhang. I didn't expect you to choose to leave alone." Looking at Emo Qingyun on the Shadowsword airship, Yang Guolong looked smug and sneered. I have to say, your actions have really won my heart. As Yang Guolong spoke, the way he looked at the Shadow Sword flying ship had also changed greatly. He could naturally see that Emo Qingyun's airship was at the Godly King level. Even with his status, it was not easy for him to buy a flying boat of this level. Immediately, his gaze toward Emo Qingyun became even more greedy. In his opinion, Emo Qingyun should have obtained the Shadowsword airship from the Lost Palace of the East Sea. If he could even obtain the Shadowsword airship, Emo Qingyun must have obtained countless good things in the Lost Palace of the East Sea. Sensing Yang Guolong's gaze, Emo Qingyun sneered at him. Have you ever thought that you might be courting death by blocking my airship? Hearing Emo Qingyun's words, Yang Guolong and the other monsters were stunned. They thought they had heard wrongly. However, after a short moment of shock, they all burst into laughter. A junior with heavenly general cultivation facing a group of godly kings, divine gods, and great gods actually said that they were courting death. This was simply the biggest joke in the world. Father, this kid is so scared that he can't even speak coherently. He even said the wrong thing. After Yang Wei recovered from his daze, he revealed a smug sneer and said a mocking sentence. As soon as Yang Wei's words fell, Yang Xie sneered and looked at Emo Qingyun in front of him. Kid, if you don't want to be tortured, hand over the things you obtained from the Lost Palace of the East Sea obediently. We'll give you a quick death later. While Yang Wei and Yang Xie were feeling proud, Yang Guolong did not say anything and looked confident. Looking at the expressions of the monsters in front of him, Emo Qingyun shook his head helplessly and said, You still don't know that you're about to die. How sad. After Emo Qingyun's words, Yang Guolong and the other monsters laughed again, as if they had heard the funniest joke. At this time, even Yang Guolong could not maintain his calm. He looked at Emo Qingyun mockingly and said, Kid, if I didn't know your cultivation base, I would have thought that you're a godly venerable expert. Without waiting for Yang Guolong to finish his words, Emo Qingyun took out one item after another. As Emo Qingyun took out all kinds of treasures, Yang Guolong and the other monsters' gazes immediately became excited. That's a 10-billion-year-old dragon jade coral of the East Sea. He actually has such an item. Look at those heaven crystals, there are at least 30 million of them, right? What's the point of having so many heaven crystals? The divine ability manuals in front of him should all be at the Godly King level. This kid's harvest in the Lost Palace of the East Sea is really frightening. However, these will soon be ours. Congratulations to the Palace Lord for obtaining so many treasures. Looking at the things in front of Emo Qingyun, Yang Guolong and the other monsters were excited, as if those things were already theirs. Under the excited gazes of Yang Guolong and the other monsters, Emo Qingyun calmly nodded at them and said, I'll leave the things here. If you want them, feel free to come and take them. Seeing Emo Qingyun's action, Yang Guolong nodded in satisfaction and said, Kid, you're quite tactful. Then I'll give you a quick death. Yang Wei, Yang Xie, go and collect those things, then deal with this kid. Hearing Yang Guolong's order, Yang Wei and Yang Xie quickly nodded and flew towards Emo Qingyun. However, just as they approached Emo Qingyun, they were enveloped by a terrifying aura. Sensing this aura, Yang Guolong and the other monsters' expressions changed greatly, producing a strong sense of panic. This aura came from a Godly King expert. There was a Godly King expert hiding nearby. Chapter 32-43. A black figure surrounded by black energy and emitting a terrifying resentment suddenly appeared in front of Emo Qingyun. Seeing the appearance of the black figure, he rushed towards Yang Wei and Yang Guoli and grabbed them. Wei-er, be careful. Seeing the black shadow rushing towards Yang Wei and Yang Guolong, Yang Guolong's expression trembled. His eyes were filled with intense shock. He didn't expect such an unforeseen event to happen. As Yang Guolong shouted, the black figure arrived in front of Yang Wei and Yang Guolong and captured them easily. After capturing Yang Wei and Yang Guoli, the black figure flashed and appeared behind Mo Qingyun. This action was undoubtedly to show the demons that he would listen to Mo Qingyun. I didn't expect this kid to have such an expert by his side. Seeing this scene, Yang Guolong's expression trembled, and the way he looked at Mo Qingyun changed greatly. For a Heaven General Realm cultivator to be protected by a Divine King Realm cultivator, it was clear how terrifying his identity was. When Yang Guolong realized this, he immediately lowered his posture and begged Mo Qingyun, "Little brother, this old man had eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai before. Please forgive me for offending you. I beg you to let Wei and Xie go. I am willing to compensate you for what happened just now. If you have any requests, just let me know." When Yang Guolong opened his mouth to speak, Yang Wei and Yang Xie clearly saw the appearance of the shadow and immediately revealed shocked expressions. It's him. He has broken through to the Divine King Realm. How is this possible? How can this kid control them with his Heaven General Realm cultivation? At this moment, Yang Wei and Yang Xie were shocked and jealous of Mo Qingyun. How could Mo Qingyun do that? How could he control Gong Hanqing and the other demons? Moreover, Gong Hanqing and the other demons had reached the Divine King Realm. Seeing Yang Wei and Yang Guolong's reaction, Yang Guolong was shocked. He quickly asked them, "Wei Xie, what's going on? Why are you so shocked?" Hearing Yang Guolong's question, Yang Wei immediately replied, "Father, he is the one we mentioned before. He is one of the demons that were infected by resentment. I didn't expect him to break through to the Divine King Realm. But we don't understand why he would listen to Mo Qingyun." Yang Wei's explanation caused the shock in Yang Guolong's heart to become even more intense. From the looks of it, Mo Qingyun did not have any powerful protectors by his side. In other words, Mo Qingyun did not have a powerful background. His previous worries were unnecessary. When Yang Guolong thought of this, the worry in his heart immediately lessened. Immediately, Yang Guolong's attitude towards Mo Qingyun became cold again. He said, "Mr. Mo, even if you have powerful means and many trump cards, you are all alone. Do you really want to go against the nine-headed dragon palace?" Mo Qingyun curled his lip in disdain when he heard Yang Guolong's words. He said, "It's just the nine-headed dragon palace. I wouldn't have bothered with it at first, but you don't know what's good for you. You just have to come and offend me. I have no choice but to flatten you. Cut the crap. If you want to live under my hands, it'll depend on your abilities." Seeing Mo Qingyun's attitude, Yang Guolong understood that it was impossible to change Mo Qingyun's mind. "Kill!" Yang Guolong called out coldly. His figure flashed as he took the initiative to attack Mo Qingyun. He said, "Humph. Do you think a Divine King puppet can fight against a true Divine King? If that's what you really think, then I'll have to tell you clearly that you are too naive." Mo Qingyun did not care about Yang Guolong's attack at all. He smiled mockingly and said, "Who told you that I only have one Divine King ghost?" As Mo Qingyun spoke, he raised his hand and summoned Zhan Sheng and the other demons. Immediately, terrifying auras appeared around Mo Qingyun. Seeing this, Yang Guolong's expression trembled. His eyes were filled with intense shock. Among the ghosts under Mo Qingyun's control, there were 2 divine kings and 2 quasi-divine kings. Even if he was a god king, he would still die here today when faced with such a force. Thinking of this, Yang Guolong looked at Yang Wei and Yang Xie unwillingly. He said, "Kid, I'm done for today. If you dare to hurt my son, I won't let you go." Yang Guolong's figure flashed as soon as he finished speaking. He was ready to abandon the demons and escape. He knew very well that if he did not leave, he would only be buried with them. If he left, he could still find reinforcements and think of a way to save Yang Wei and Yang Xie. "That's a good idea. Unfortunately, you can't leave." Seeing Yang Guolong's actions, Mo Qingyun immediately guessed what he was thinking. He raised his hand and sent a palm strike towards Yang Guolong. When Mo Qingyun raised his hand, a door of light with a mysterious aura shot out of his palm. The speed of the light gate was very fast. In the blink of an eye, it was in front of Yang Guolong and blasted into his body. "You are a junior from the Heavenly Saint clan." Seeing Mo Qingyun's attack, Yang Guolong was so frightened that his face turned pale. He felt as though his soul had left his body. Mo Qingyun's attack had given rise to an instinctive thought that Mo Qingyun was from one of the 9 great Heavenly Saint clans. Yang Guolong was very clear about how powerful the 9 great Heavenly Saint clans were in the Heaven Realm. They were definitely one of the top forces. Before Mo Qingyun could answer Yang Guolong, the aura that Yang Guolong was emitting started to weaken rapidly. My cultivation. Sensing the rapid decline of his cultivation, Yang Guolong was terrified. He was even more afraid of Mo Qingyun now. In his memory, even the powerful 9 great Heavenly Saint clans didn't seem to possess such strength. In a short while, the aura that Yang Guolong emitted fell to the level of a heavenly god. After his cultivation fell to the level of a heavenly god, Yang Guolong felt even more despair. Based on the current situation, he couldn't even save Yang Wei and Yang Xie. He couldn't even save himself. Thinking of this, Yang Guolong didn't dare to act rashly. He hurriedly begged Mo Qingyun, "Young master, I was wrong. Please give me a chance. As long as you don't kill me, I'm willing to be your slave." Yang Guolong had no choice but to admit defeat. Although Mo Qingyun's cultivation wasn't high, his methods were too terrifying. More importantly, the 3 divine king powerhouses by Mo Qingyun's side gave him too great of a pressure. Mo Qingyun didn't soften his heart in the face of Yang Guolong's pleading. He said coldly, "After you die, I'll refine you into a ghost immortal. You'll be able to serve me better." After Mo Qingyun finished speaking, he waved his arm and ordered the ghost immortals to kill Yang Guolong. Facing the attacks of a few God King realm ghost immortals, even an expert like Yang Guolong was killed in the blink of an eye. Seeing that Yang Guolong was killed, Yang Wei and the other demons at the side revealed a look of despair. Even the God King Yang Guolong was killed by Mo Qingyun, let alone them. Chapter 3244. Before long, Yang Wei and the others had all been killed, except for one Heavenly God Realm Beast. Mo Qingyun hadn't killed the Heavenly God Realm Beast of the 9-headed Serpent Palace because he still had some use for him. Lead the way. It was rare for Mo Qingyun to waste his breath, so he went straight to the point. Hearing Mo Qingyun's order, the Heavenly God Realm Beast immediately led the way. Soon after, Mo Qingyun hurried toward the 9-headed Serpent Palace under his lead. The 9-headed Serpent Palace wasn't very far. Mo Qingyun only took a little more than 2 hours to reach it. Go tell them to leave the 9-headed Serpent Palace within 100 breaths and not to hide any treasures. Otherwise they will be killed without mercy. Standing outside the 9-headed Serpent Palace, Missouri Qingyun's face was cold as he ordered the Heavenly God Realm Powerhouse. Hearing Mo Qingyun's order, the Heavenly God Realm Powerhouse of the 9-headed Serpent Palace immediately went to pass on the message. Before long, he led a group of demons out and respectfully asked for instructions from Mo Qingyun. Scram! In response to their request, Mo Qingyun waved his hand impatiently and ordered Gong Hanqing and the others, since they don't want to leave, they can stay here forever. At Mo Qingyun's command, Gong Hanqing and the other demons entered the 9-headed Serpent Palace in a flash. Seeing this scene, the demons who had escaped from the 9-headed Serpent Palace were scared out of their wit. At this moment, they were all thankful that they hadn't stubbornly stayed behind to resist. Against 3 divine king realm powerhouses, even Yang Guolong would be useless. Resisting was simply courting death. Before long, the demons who had stayed behind to resist were all killed by Gong Hanqing and the others. Aolai, go in and collect the spoils. Seeing that the demons of the nine-headed serpent palace had been killed, Emo Chingyun waved his hand and ordered Ao Lai to help him count the spoils. Upon hearing Emo Chingyun's instructions, Ao Lai did not hesitate and immediately flew into the nine-headed dragon palace. Upon seeing Emo Chingyun's actions, the demons of the nine-headed WRM palace felt even more reverence for him. A powerful force with a divine king was destroyed in the blink of an eye by this young man. A short while later, Ao Lai came out of the palace and handed a storage ring to Emo Chingyun, saying, "Benefactor, I've put everything in the palace into this storage ring." "Yes." Emo Chingyun nodded and accepted the storage ring. After destroying the nine-headed dragon palace, Missouri Chingyun didn't want to stay any longer. He took out the sword shadow flying ship and said, "Since the problem is solved, let's not waste any more time. Let's depart for the West Sea. Ao Lai, you're more familiar with the Sea of Dividing Worlds. You'll be in charge of controlling the flying ship." Ao Lai obeyed Emo Chingyun's order and replaced Emo Chingyun in controlling the flying ship. After handing over the task to Ao Lai, Emo Chingyun's figure disappeared in a flicker, entering the Fortune mainland. As for the remaining forces of the nine-headed WRM palace, Missouri Chingyun didn't bother with them, leaving them to fend for themselves. Inside the Fortune mainland, the moment Emo Chingyun entered the Fortune mainland, he opened the storage ring given to him by Ao Lai to check his harvest. Yang Guolong was a God King realm master, and the nine-headed WRM palace had been operating for many years, thus his wealth was quite abundant. From Emo Chingyun's observation, the number of heaven crystals in his storage ring had reached over 60 million. Adding the 30 million plus heaven crystals in his storage ring, the number of heaven crystals in his storage ring had reached 100 million. A heaven general realm cultivator with more than 100 million heaven crystals in his storage ring, this news would scare many people. Other than the heaven crystals, inside the nine-headed WRM palace's treasury, there were also a lot of cultivation resources. Among these cultivation resources, most of them were alchemy resources, while smithing and refining arrays were scarce. Demonic beasts focused on body tempering, thus they didn't place much importance on weapons and armors. As for these alchemy materials, they weren't going to use them to refine pills, but to refine and absorb them directly. Although these items are valuable, they aren't easy to use at the moment. After categorizing these cultivation resources, Emo Chingyun put them away, planning to use them after he stabilized his cultivation base. With his current smithing and array refining skills, he had no use for these materials. More accurately, he didn't know how to use them. As for those alchemy materials, Emo Chingyun didn't plan to consume them directly. Instead, he planned to find a divine alchemist to refine them for him. After collecting the cultivation resources, Emo Chingyun didn't stop there. Looking at Yang Guolong's corpse, he thought, although this guy was only an early divine king when he was alive, he was still a divine king powerhouse. Refining him into a specter god would be a considerable force. With this thought in mind, Emo Chingyun didn't hesitate any longer and immediately began refining him. With the experience of the previous few times, Emo Chingyun became very familiar with the blood sacrifice, refining Yang Guolong again. Next, Emo Chingyun cast aside all distracting thoughts and wholeheartedly focused on refining Yang Guolong. While Emo Chingyun was refining Yang Guolong, a shocking piece of news spread in the eastern sea of the divine domain. Inside the evil dragon palace. What? The nine-headed WRM palace was destroyed? Hearing his subordinates report, Nie Kuanghong's eyes widened in disbelief. He had fought Yang Guolong for thousands of years, so he was well aware of Yang Guolong's abilities and methods. He definitely wasn't easy to deal with. Now that he knew Yang Guolong had been killed, how could he not be shocked? Of course, Nie Kuanghong was more worried than shocked. In his opinion, if the other party could kill Yang Guolong, they could deal with him as well. The evil dragon palace wasn't far from the nine-headed WRM palace. If they destroyed the nine-headed WRM palace and wanted to expand their territory, it wouldn't be long before they attacked the evil dragon palace. If that was the case, what should he do? Thinking of this, Nie Quanghong's face tightened. He asked the several commanders below, "Have you found out who destroyed the nine-headed WRM palace?" Hearing Nie Quanghong's question, Commander Wu Zhang's face turned pale. He trembled and said, "Palace Master, according to the information we've gathered, the person who destroyed the nine-headed WRM palace seems to be Mr. Mo." "Which Mr. Mo?" Knowing Mo Qingyun's strength, Nie Quanghong instinctively ignored Mo Qingyun when he heard the report. Seeing Nie Quanghong's reaction, Wu Zhang and the other commanders weren't surprised. They were the same at first. Immediately, Wu Zhang explained, "Palace Master, it's Mr. Mo that I brought back. Although the result is shocking, it's the truth. It's him." Hearing Wu Zhang's explanation, Nie Quanghong's expression changed. He said in shock, "I didn't expect that I would be wrong. He actually controlled this battle force. He hid it so well. No wonder he directly refused when I offered to escort him. Yang Guolong's death at the hands of such a person isn't too unjust. But it's also a good thing for us." Nie Quanghong was shocked, but he also felt lucky that he hadn't offended Mo Qingyun before. Immediately, Nie Quanghong began to order people to take over the nine-headed WRM palace's territory. Chapter 3245 Celestial Realm, Donglai Archipelago, Heaven-Killing Guild's Branch. At that moment, there were a few godly kings with powerful auras sitting in the meeting hall of the Heaven Slayer Association. If Mo Qingyun was here, he would definitely recognize God King Xing He. Looking at the middle-aged man sitting at the top of the hall, God King Xing He said humbly, "Branch Leader Guan Peng, we've come to you to ask for your help in finding someone." Upon hearing Xing He's request, Guan Peng smiled politely and said, "Brother Xing He, you are too polite. You could have just sent someone to inform me that you were looking for someone. Why didn't you come here personally?" Xing He chuckled at Guan Peng's words. He pointed at Wan Guoqiong and said, "I'm here to bring Palace Lord Wan here." Guan Peng was curious. He turned to look at Wan Guoqiong with curiosity in his eyes. As a god king, Guan Peng had noticed Wan Guoqiong the moment she entered the Heaven-Killing Guild's branch. A divine king came to ask them for information. This was a big deal. "Palace Lord Wan, nice to meet you." Guan Peng cupped his hands politely and greeted Wan Guoqiong. "Palace Lord Wan, may I know why you've come to me?" "Branch Leader Guan, you're too polite." Wan Guoqiong waved her hand modestly. "I've come to you to ask for your help in finding a Heaven General Brat." "A Heaven General Brat?" Guan Peng was shocked by Wan Guoqiong's words. He looked at Xing He in confusion. Xing He and Wan Guoqiong were god kings, but they couldn't even catch a Heaven General Brat. This was too strange. At this moment, he couldn't help but think that Xing He and Xing He were toying with him. Xing He guessed Guan Peng's thoughts when he saw his expression change. "Brother Guan Peng, don't misunderstand. Although this brat's cultivation isn't high, he's extremely cunning and has many tricks up his sleeve. He's not easy to deal with. Palace Lord Wan's son was ambushed by that brat when he went out and was captured. According to our investigation, he seems to have escaped to the celestial realm, which is why we came to you to inquire about him." Hearing Xing He's words, Guan Peng's expression improved a bit and he became interested. A heavenly general had shaken off the pursuit of two god kings and even crossed a region to escape. This kind of ability was extremely rare. From the looks of it, that brat does have some ability. Knowing Mo Qingyun's situation, Guan Peng frowned and said, "We're acquaintances. That kid's cultivation isn't high, but he can escape from right under your noses. He's no ordinary person. He should have some special methods. It's not easy to find such a person. We'll have to use a lot of manpower." After hearing Guan Peng's words, how could Xing He and the other two not understand his intentions? Guan Peng said so much just to raise the price and make Wan Guoqiong pay more heaven crystals. Understanding Guan Peng's intentions, Wan Guoqiong didn't beat around the bush and asked directly, "Branch Master Guan Peng, how many heaven crystals do you want? Just name a price." Wan Guoqiong's frankness surprised Guan Peng a little. After thinking about it, he said, "If you're just investigating his whereabouts, 5 million heaven crystals are enough. If you're chasing him, 10 million heaven crystals. If you're capturing him alive, 30 million heaven crystals." Xing He's expression changed when he heard Guan Peng's price. He was shocked and said, "Brother Guan Peng, this price is clearly the request of a sky celestial." Guan Peng looked aggrieved at Xing He's question. "Brother Xing He, you two are already acquaintances. You can't trick me like this. Think about it. Can an ordinary sky celestial escape from right under your noses?" Guan Peng's rhetorical question left Xing He and the other two speechless. They didn't know how to answer. Although they didn't want to admit it, they had to admit that an ordinary sky celestial wouldn't be able to do that. Seeing Guan Peng's attitude, Wan Guoqiong stopped wasting words with him. She directly took out 5 million heaven crystals and said, "Here are 5 million heaven crystals. You only need to provide information. As for capturing him, we can deal with it ourselves." "Okay." Guan Peng nodded in satisfaction when he saw Wan Guoqiong take out the heaven crystals. He put them away. After that, they discussed some details before Wan Guoqiong and Xing He left. 3 months later. God Domain's world-dividing sea, the periphery of the West Sea. After 3 months of hurrying, Ao Lai drove the Sword Shadow flying ship and finally passed through the Divine Realm's dividing world sea. When they reached the border of the Sky Celestial Realm, Ao Lai sent a voice transmission to Mo Qingyun. "Benefactor, we're about to reach the Sky Celestial Realm. What should we do next?" Hearing Ao Lai's voice transmission, Mo Qingyun stopped cultivating and walked out of the cabin. 2 months ago, Huang Xiaolong had left the Fortune mainland and had been cultivating in his cabin. After 2 months of cultivation, his cultivation had improved significantly, and he had successfully broken through to the peak of the Heavenly General Realm. He was only a step away from the Great God Realm. Coming out of the cabin, Mo Qingyun walked to Ao Lai's side. He looked ahead and asked, "Where are we now? What's in front of us?" Hearing Mo Qingyun's question, Ao Lai took out a map and handed it to Mo Qingyun. "In 2 hours, we will reach the Sky Celestial Realm and enter the Eastern Lai Islands." Looking at the direction Ao Lai was pointing at, Mo Qingyun's brows furrowed. He thought to himself, according to Jiang Yunxi and the others, they came to the Sky Celestial Realm to seek refuge with the Madman Divine Sect. If I want to meet up with Enchun, I need to make a trip to the Madman Divine Sect. To reach the Madman Divine Sect, we need to pass through the Eastern Lai Islands and then the Eastern Brilliance Divine Land. Mo Qingyun thought about it for a moment. He now had a clear direction for the next route he should take. Then, Mo Qingyun no longer hesitated and immediately led Ao Lai on the way. Just as Ao Lai had guessed, they entered the Eastern Lai Islands in 2 hours. With Mo Qingyun's current cultivation, he could easily survive in any kind of environment. However, he was still not used to staying in the water for several months. Now that he was back on the ground, he wanted to recuperate. He said, "Let's go to the Eastern Sun Island in front and recuperate for a while before setting off for the Eastern Brilliance Divine Land." Hearing Mo Qingyun's order, Ao Lai did not hesitate and immediately headed to the Eastern Sun Island. Chapter 3246. East Sun Island wasn't very big. Mo Qingyun stood in the air and took in everything with a single glance. On East Sun Island there was only one huge city, surrounded by towns. Mo Qingyun took a quick glance at East Sun Island and took in everything there was to see. Then, he flew straight towards the city. Compared to the surrounding towns, the city had more complete facilities and was more convenient to live in. Emo Qingyun's figure flashed a few times before he arrived in front of the city. East Sun City. Emo Qingyun walked in after glancing at the sign on the city gate. As soon as he arrived at the city gate, Emo Qingyun felt like he was being watched. This feeling made Emo Qingyun feel very strange. He couldn't help but look around. He had just arrived in East Sun City, but he was already being watched. This was really too strange. Emo Qingyun looked around and didn't discover anyone hiding in the dark, watching his movements. Although he didn't discover anyone watching him, Emo Qingyun was still cautious and carefully guarded his surroundings. Let's go in. After instructing Aolai, Emo Qingyun walked forward and entered East Sun City. Emo Qingyun entered East Sun City and found an inn to stay in. After settling down in the inn, Emo Qingyun looked at Aolai beside him and thought for a moment before asking, Aolai, are you from the barbarian demon tribe or the intelligent demon tribe? If you're from the intelligent demon tribe, then take human form. That way you won't attract too much attention. Aolai shook his head after hearing Emo Qingyun's question. Benefactor, the demon tribe of the divine realm's sea of boundaries is neither barbarian demon nor intelligent demon tribe. We're between them. After explaining his situation to Emo Qingyun, Aolai began to transform into a half-human, half-demon form. Although it's not a complete human form, it's better this way. Emo Qingyun nodded in satisfaction as he looked at Aolai. He said, you must have worked hard during this period of time. Go rest early. Aolai nodded and left the room. Dongyang City. In the meeting hall of the Heaven Killer Association, a short middle-aged man came over with a nervous look on his face. Lord Deacon, we've found the person the division leader is looking for. As soon as the middle-aged man entered the hall, he excitedly reported to the people at the top of the hall. Hearing this person's words, the middle-aged man at the top of the hall was delighted and asked, where is he? The short middle-aged man reported, not long ago, he came to Dongyang City. Because I was discovered by him, I quickly left to report his news. If I'm not mistaken, he should be staying in the city. It'll be easy to ask about his whereabouts. The deacon was delighted when he heard the short middle-aged man's words. He said, in that case, I'll report to the division leader immediately. You guys go and ask about the inn he's staying at. After the deacon finished speaking, he left the main hall. The short middle-aged man who had reported the news also left the hall to search for the inn where Emo Qingyun was staying. Donglai Islands, Donglai Island. In the meeting hall of the Heaven Killer Association's branch. There's actually news so quickly. Guan Peng was slightly stunned when he received the news from the deacon. He was a little surprised by this news. Originally, he thought that Emo Qingyun should have many trump cards to be able to escape from two God Kings. They should have spent a lot of effort to find Emo Qingyun's whereabouts. He did not expect that there would be news about Emo Qingyun in just a few days. It seems like the kid that Brother Xinghe and Brother Xinghe are talking about is nothing special. Guan Peng smiled disdainfully when he saw that Emo Qingyun had been found so quickly. He felt contempt for Emo Qingyun. While Guan Peng was feeling disdainful, he took out his communication jade slip and told Brother Xinghe and Brother Xinghe the news. Brother Xinghe and Brother Xinghe rushed over when they received Guan Peng's message. Where's that kid? Wan Guoqiong asked Guan Peng about Emo Qingyun's current whereabouts as soon as she entered the hall. Guan Peng did not beat around the bush when he heard Wan Guoqiong's question. He said, not long ago, the deacon of the East Sun Island branch reported that the kid appeared on East Sun Island. Right now, he's staying at an inn on East Sun Island. Let's hurry over. He shouldn't have had time to leave yet. Wan Guoqiong agreed to Guan Peng's suggestion without hesitation. Then, they steered the flying boat and hurried over to East Sun Island. East Sun City, Yangguan Inn. After a simple rest, Emo Chingyun walked out of the room and sat at a table with Ao Lai. At the moment, the table was filled with various rare delicacies. As Emo Chingyun enjoyed the delicacies, the feeling of being watched appeared in his heart again. That's strange. The feeling of being watched from the shadows has actually appeared again. A strange feeling appeared in his heart. Emo Chingyun's heart tensed up, and he became even more careful. Then, Emo Chingyun released his divine consciousness and carefully sensed the surroundings. Through Emo Chingyun's perception, he discovered a sneaky figure hiding in the dark, staring at them. Humph! Emo Chingyun discovered the other party and snorted softly before flashing toward him. Emo Chingyun's figure flashed a few times before he arrived in front of the other party and raised his hand to capture him. This person's cultivation was only in the great divinity realm, so he was no match for Emo Chingyun. Under Emo Chingyun's attack, he was quickly captured. What are you trying to do? The short, middle-aged man looked terrified when he was captured by Emo Chingyun. Emo Chingyun ignored his question and said coldly, "What am I trying to do? Shouldn't I be asking you?" After Emo Chingyun finished speaking, he did not wait for the other party to speak before he lifted his hand and grabbed the other party's head. Then, Emo Chingyun searched his soul and stripped his memory. Under Emo Chingyun's forceful search, the short, middle-aged man's memory was read bit by bit. The Killer Society. After knowing the other party's identity, Emo Chingyun's face turned cold and he emitted a cold, murderous intent. Since the other party wanted to do business with him, they should be prepared for revenge. Let's go to the Killer Society. Without hesitation, Emo Chingyun brought Ao Lai along and rushed to the Killer Society's branch. The Killer Society's branch was easy to identify. Emo Chingyun arrived there in a short while. Destroy them. After arriving at the Killer Society's branch, Emo Chingyun did not hesitate and immediately ordered Yang Guolong and the other demons. Then, they charged into the Heaven Killer Association and massacred their members. The most powerful deacon in the Killer Society's branch on East Sun Island was only a quasi-god king expert. With their abilities, they were no match for Gong Hanqing and the other demons. After a short while, the Killer Society's branch on East Sun Island was completely massacred. Chapter 3247. On a huge flying boat. You too, it's just a Heaven General kid. You don't have to be so concerned. Guan Peng felt disdain when he saw Wan Guoqiong and Xing He. He tried to comfort them. Xing He shook his head and said, "Brother Guan Peng, you haven't interacted with that kid before. You don't know what he's capable of. You can't underestimate or be careless." Guan Peng didn't refute Xing He's words, but his expression was one of disapproval. Wan Guoqiong didn't care about Guan Peng's reaction. She said, "Branch leader Guan Peng, please contact them again and ask for that kid's exact location. We'll go directly to his residence." Okay. Although he felt disdain for Wan Guoqiong and Xing He, Guan Peng still did as he was told. No matter what, Xing He and Xing He were his client. He had to satisfy them. Under Wan Guoqiong and Xing He's nervous gazes, Guan Peng's expression grew uglier and uglier. Seeing Guan Peng's abnormal expression, Xing He and Xing He's expressions also became tense. They asked, "Branch leader Guan Peng, what happened? Did that kid escape?" With their understanding of Emo Chingyun, Guan Peng's reaction was very likely to mean that Emo Chingyun had escaped. Under their nervous gazes, Guan Peng shook his head and said, "I just contacted the deacon of the East Sun Island branch, but he didn't respond at all. I also contacted the other vice deacons, but there was also no response." Hearing Guan Peng's answer, Xing He and Wan Guoqiong's expressions shook. They had a strong feeling that something was wrong. They had a feeling that the East Sun Island branch of the Heaven Killer Association might have encountered some mishap. Full speed ahead. We have to get there as soon as possible. Knowing that something had happened, Guan Guoqiong felt a sense of urgency and urged Guan Peng beside her. Seeing that something had happened to the East Sun Island branch, Guan Peng didn't dare to hesitate and drove the flying boat at full speed. A few hours later, a huge flying boat arrived outside the East Sun Island branch of the Heaven Killer Association. As soon as the airship arrived, a terrifying aura erupted from the airship. "How dare you destroy our Heaven Killing Society's branch? No matter who you are, we will tear you to pieces." Looking at the messy East Sun Island branch, Guan Peng was so angry that his face turned ashen. He gritted his teeth and roared. Compared to Guan Peng's anger, Xing He and Guan Guoqiong rejoiced in his misfortune and despised him. Just a moment ago, Guan Peng had been full of confidence and was filled with displeasure towards Mo Qingyun. In the blink of an eye, the East Sun Island branch was destroyed. Moreover, the person who destroyed the Killer Association's East Sun Island branch might be Mo Qingyun, whom he despised. It had to be said that this was truly a slap in the face. Although they were delighted, Xing He and the other two didn't show it. Xing He pondered for a moment before he walked over to Guan Peng and said, "Brother Guan Peng, does the East Sun Island branch of the Sky Killer Association have any enemies here?" Hearing Xing He's question, Guan Peng thought for a moment before replying, "I've never heard of them. The East Sun Island is just a remote place. Even if they have any enemies, I don't think they would dare act rashly." After hearing the answer from Guan Peng, Xing He was even more certain of his guess. He said, "In that case, if I'm not wrong, it should be someone from the East Sun Island branch who was discovered when they were following Mo Qingyun. This is that kid's revenge." Xing He's words made Guan Peng's expression darken. He was enraged. Guan Peng was enraged because Xing He and the other two had brought him so much trouble. He was also furious at Mo Qingyun's actions. A kid with a Heaven General cultivation base had actually dared to destroy the Heaven Killing Society's branch. This was simply too audacious. Of course, while Guan Peng was furious, he also had some doubts. Mo Qingyun was only a Heaven General. How could he have destroyed the East Sun Island branch? When he thought of this, Guan Peng's gaze towards the Xing He duo immediately became somewhat unfriendly. He said, "The two of you, is Mo Qingyun really a heavenly general? Are the two of you hiding something from me?" Originally, Guan Peng had been wondering how a junior with a Heaven General cultivation base had managed to escape from two God Kings. Now that something like this had happened, his suspicions immediately grew even stronger. Guan Guoqiong snorted gently when she saw Guan Peng's reaction. She was rather displeased. She seemed to be displeased with Guan Peng and had shifted his anger onto them. Xing He frowned slightly. After a moment of thought, he said, "Brother Guan Peng, given our relationship, is there a need for me to fall out with you over this?" Guan Peng's expression improved slightly when he heard Xing He's words. He felt that Xing He was right. Although he no longer doubted Xing He and the other two, Guan Peng's expression was still ugly. He said, "But how do you explain this? He destroyed the East Sun Island branch all by himself?" Branch leader Guan Peng, "We're only guessing whether or not it was Mo Qingyun who did it. Brother Guan Peng, there should be some secrets behind this. Let's investigate it immediately." The three of them discussed for a while. They no longer hesitated and began investigating the secrets behind this matter. While Guan Peng and the other two were investigating, Mo Qingyun had already left East Sun Island on the flying boat. The Heaven Slayer Association is really rich. A small branch has close to 200 million heaven crystals. Mo Qingyun was pleasantly surprised when he counted the Heaven Slayer Association's spoils. He was very satisfied with his gains this time. As a result, the number of heaven crystals he had on him had reached close to 300 million. Although 300 million seemed like a lot, he had to control several God King realm ghosts, so it was very costly. After putting away the heaven crystals, Emo Chinyun revealed a regretful expression and said, "Although the Heaven Slayer Association's branch has a large number of heaven crystals, there's almost no other cultivation resources." Emo Chinyun sighed regretfully. Then, he had a bold idea. "The Heaven Slayer Association is investigating me. They're trying to harm me. Should I destroy all of their branches?" Soon, Emo Chinyun shook his head and abandoned the idea. He had only destroyed one branch. At most, it would attract the attention of the East Lai Island. The East Lai Island's chief was only a God King realm powerhouse. He was not a threat to him. However, if he destroyed too many branches and attracted the attention of the entire Heaven Slayer Association, it would be troublesome. By then, the Heaven Slayer Association would send Emperor God powerhouses. Even if they could not kill him, they would make his journey more difficult. After abandoning the idea, Emo Chinyun glanced ahead. Then, he said to Emo Chinyun, "Find a place to stop. We'll rest for a while." "Yes." Hearing Emo Chinyun's instructions, Aolai responded and chose a place to stop. The island they chose this time was much bigger than the previous East Sun Island. There were many cities on it. After a simple selection, Emo Chinyun arrived at the biggest city and saw the name of the city. East Lai City. Emo Chinyun walked in after glancing at the name of the city. It didn't take long for Emo Chinyun to find an inn and settle down. Chapter 3248. Seems like I'm being followed again. When Emo Chinyun entered the inn, he frowned as he sensed that something was wrong. After a short moment of surprise, Emo Chinyun did not care anymore as he knew who was following him. If he was not mistaken, the person who was following him was definitely from the Heaven Slayer Association. He had already done some research on the Heaven Slayer Association in the Eastern Lai Island. The strongest chief was only at the Mid-Divine King realm, so he was not much of a threat to him. If the other party did not know what was good for him, Emo Chinyun did not mind teaching him a lesson. When Emo Chinyun walked into the inn, Aolai went to arrange the accommodations and ordered some food and wine. After scanning the inn's hall, Emo Chinyun realized that there was only one table left in the hall. "My luck is not bad. There's actually the last table." Seeing that there was only one table left, Emo Chinyun smiled faintly as he walked to the table and sat down leisurely. When Emo Chinyun sat down, he could hear every single word that was being said in the hall. The reason why he sat down in the hall was that he was very interested in the conversation. The inheritance left behind by the supreme divinity of the Ghoul sect 30 million years ago has been unearthed. It's a pity that only the people of the Dark Heaven Holy Gate can enter the place of inheritance. I heard that the people of the Dark Heaven Holy Gate are very interested in the cave of the Master of the Ghoul sect. Of course, with the inheritance of the supreme divinity of the Ghoul sect, becoming a divine emperor is almost guaranteed. Anyway, no matter what, we won't have a share. Everyone was talking at the same time. Hearing everyone's words, the interest on Emo Chinyun's face immediately became stronger. His bloodline also contained a trace of the bloodline of the Dark Heaven Holy Gate. Logically speaking, he also had a chance to enter. When Emo Chinyun was thinking about this, he also thought of Enchun. He thought to himself, "I wonder if Enchun has come to the heavenly divine realm. If he knows about the inheritance of the supreme divinity of the Ghoul sect, will he rush over?" At this moment, Emo Chinyun couldn't help but feel a little regretful that Enchun wasn't with him. If Enchun was with him, Enchun would be able to obtain some benefits from the Cabinet Door God's inheritance. At this moment, while Emo Chinyun was pondering, Aolai had taken care of the accommodations and food. Emo Chinyun continued to listen to the conversations of the people around him. Not long after, the dishes and wine that Aolai had ordered were all delivered. When the dishes were served, Emo Chinyun ate while listening to the conversations of the people around him. While Emo Chinyun was listening to the conversations of the crowd, a group of fairy-like, otherworldly, and elegant women wearing long white couches walked into the inn. Seeing the women walk into the inn, Mo Qingyun's expression changed. He felt a sense of familiarity from them. So beautiful! Only a woman from the sacred clan of Confrontations could have such a temperament. I've always heard that there are beauties in the sacred clan of Confrontations. It's true. I didn't expect that I would be lucky enough to see a member of the sacred clan of Confrontations in my life. I really didn't live in vain. Seeing the women enter the inn, the people around them were all talking at once. The women asked for a few rooms and looked inside the hall to find a table to sit at. The women glanced around and were surprised that there wasn't a single empty table. Fairies, we can let you have our table. Ladies, if you don't mind, you can sit with us. Seeing the performance of the women, the people in the hall were all fawning over them. Compared to the fawning of others, Mo Qingyun, who was sitting there leisurely eating and drinking, was particularly eye-catching. Seeing Mo Qingyun's performance, the women of the sacred clan of Confrontations exchanged glances. They decided to sit at the same table with Mo Qingyun. Mo Qingyun's performance just now made them feel that sitting at the same table with Mo Qingyun would save them a lot of trouble. After a while, the women came to Mo Qingyun's side. One of them stepped forward and asked, "Young master, can we sit at the same table with you?" "No." Mo Qingyun rejected this woman's request without hesitation. Mo Qingyun's reply not only stunned the women of the sacred clan of Confrontations, but also the people around them. They were very clear about the identity of the women in front of them. If they could establish a relationship with them, they would be able to establish a subtle connection with the sacred clan of Confrontations. For ordinary people, this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. No one thought that Mo Qingyun would reject such a request without hesitation. You rejected my request?" The young woman who asked Mo Qingyun widened her beautiful eyes. She was very surprised by this result. In her opinion, when Mo Qingyun heard her question, he should be so excited that he would sweep the bed to welcome her. But in the end, Mo Qingyun's face was cold and indifferent as he rejected her without hesitation. The young woman thought for a moment and pouted. He must be playing hard to get. He wants to show that he's different and attract our attention. The young woman's mood improved a lot when she thought of this. Upon hearing the young woman's question, Mo Qingyun glanced at her and said, "That's right. I don't want to eat at the same table with you. If you want to find a seat, you can go to someone else's table. They should be very happy." If Mo Qingyun had been reserved before, then he had directly rejected them. Mo Qingyun's attitude made the women of the sacred clan of Confrontations feel even worse. This was the first time in their lives that they had been treated so coldly. Mo Qingyun ignored the young women's feelings and continued to eat while thinking about the demon sect divine venerate. "Humph! If you don't let us sit, we will sit." The girls exchanged glances, and they sat down near the table unwillingly. Aolai was displeased when he saw the young women's behavior and wanted to drive them away. However, before he could stand up, Mo Qingyun stopped him. Mo Qingyun ignored the young women of the sacred clan of Confrontations after he stopped Aolai. They wanted to pester him endlessly, so Mo Qingyun had no choice but to let them do as they pleased. When Mo Qingyun didn't say anything, the young women raised their heads proudly, as if they had won a great battle. "Senior Sister Xianyin, why did we travel so far to the Sky Demon Divine region?" The young woman closest to Mo Qingyun asked the young woman opposite her innocently. Kong Xianyin frowned when she heard the young woman's question. She glanced at Mo Qingyun and said, "We are going to the Sky Demon Divine region to a place called Carefree Valley to buy some carefree fruits." Mo Qingyun's expression changed slightly when he heard the young women's words. He was intrigued. Chapter 3249. Buy the Fretless Fruit? Mo Qingyun's brows furrowed slightly as he listened to the women's words. He began to ponder silently. He was well aware of the fretless fruit's effect. These women were going to buy the fretless fruit because someone in the sacred clan of Sky, Profound Heaven, wanted to use it to erase part of their memories. While Emo Chingyun was lost in thought, the women continued chatting on the side. I heard that the purpose of the fretless fruit this time around seems to be for Ling Long. It is indeed for Ling Long. Ling Long can't forget what happened in the lower realm, causing her cultivation to stagnate. With Ling Long's personality, even if they buy the fretless fruit, she probably won't use it, right? I don't know about that. The elders should have a way. The girl's conversation entered Emo Chingyun's ears without missing a single word. Hearing their words, Emo Chingyun's heart shook and he emitted a cold aura. According to the women's words, they seemed to be going to buy the fretless fruit for Qian Linglong. More importantly, they were going to give it to Qian Linglong when she was unwilling to use it. Sensing Emo Chingyun's cold aura, the women's expressions trembled as they stared at Emo Chingyun with wide eyes. While they were surprised, they were also puzzled. They didn't understand why Emo Chingyun would suddenly become angry. It was as if someone had touched his reverse scale. Under the women's surprised gazes, Emo Chingyun slowly withdrew his aura and ignored their reactions. Seeing Emo Chingyun withdraw his aura, the women began to look at each other, but they didn't ask Emo Chingyun anything. However, the way they looked at Emo Chingyun changed greatly. In their eyes, Emo Chingyun was a complete weirdo. I can't let them buy the fretless fruit. I have to stop them. At this moment, Emo Chingyun immediately made a decision. If I want to stop them from buying the fretless fruit, it won't work even if I kill them. Someone else will come. Unless the Carefree Valley's Valley Master refuses to sell any carefree fruits. As Emo Chingyun thought about this, he started to consider whether he should make a trip to the Carefree Valley. After a brief moment of hesitation, Emo Chingyun made up his mind. He had to make a trip to Carefree Valley as soon as possible. Given his relationship with the Carefree Valley Master, he should have a high chance of success if he were to ask for his help. Aolai, let's go. Having made his decision, Emo Chingyun no longer hesitated. He got up and walked out of the inn. Seeing Emo Chingyun's actions, the people sitting at the surrounding tables were all shocked. What's up with that kid? How dare you ignore the beauty of the Profound Heaven Holy Clan? Don't tell me that kid has some weird fetish and isn't interested in women. Looking at his delicate features, it's hard to say if he likes men. Everyone was talking at once as they made wild guesses. Hearing the whispers of the crowd, the women of the Kong Profound Heaven Saint clan were even more surprised. I didn't expect him to have that kind of fetish. No wonder his attitude towards us was so bad. The girl who had been rejected by Emo Chingyun immediately voiced her thoughts when she heard the people around her. Kong Xianin glared at the girl and said, "Xianyue, don't speak nonsense." Kong Xianin reprimanded her. Kong Xianyue smiled and said, "Even if he doesn't have that kind of fetish, he's definitely a strange person." Kong Xianin and the other women nodded at Kong Xuanyue's words. They also felt the same way. If Emo Chingyun knew what the people in the inn were thinking, he would be depressed. He would never have thought that he would have such an image in the minds of the people in the inn. After coming out of the inn, Emo Chingyun took out the Shadowsword flying ship and returned to the Sea of the Divine Domain. Soon, Emo Chingyun left Donglai City and rushed towards Dongyang City. "I'm going to cultivate in seclusion. Let me know when you reach the Sky Demon Divine Domain." After instructing Aolai, Emo Chingyun didn't think too much about it and went into the cabin to cultivate. Aolai controlled the Shadowsword flying ship and rushed towards the Sea of the Divine Domain to the Sky Demon Divine Domain. About 2 hours later, a huge flying ship brushed past the Shadowsword flying ship. If Emo Chingyun was on the sampan, he would definitely recognize the person on the flying ship. It was God King Xing He who had chased after him. God King Xing He's expression changed slightly when he saw the Shadowsword flying ship. He said in surprise, "Hey, this flying ship looks familiar, but I can't remember where I've seen it before." Guanping said impatiently, "Don't worry about that flying ship. The Donglai City branch just sent news that the kid has appeared in Donglai City. Let's hurry over." Once bitten, twice shy. Guanping was a little afraid now that Mo Qingyun had destroyed the Donglai City branch. Wan Guiqiong nodded when she heard Guanping's words. She was thinking the same thing. Mo Qingyun was too cunning. If they didn't capture him, they wouldn't be at ease. Thinking about what had happened in Dongyang City, the three of them tensed up. They controlled the flying ship at full speed. Outside Donglai City, a Sky God-grade flying ship stopped and a group of people walked out. Among this group of people, a beautiful young lady looked at Donglai City in front of her and said, "This is the largest city in the Donglai archipelago. If we go there and ask around, we should be able to find out where young Master Mo is." Hearing the young girl's question, a middle-aged man beside her frowned deeply. He said, "Miss Jiang, my master and I can sense that he is not in any danger right now. There is no need for us to investigate his whereabouts. If we try to find out his whereabouts, we'll be exposed. If we encounter danger, our master will be in a passive position." Jiang Xingfeng nodded and said, "Chen is right. We don't need to gather too many people to find out Mr. Mo's whereabouts. Let's wait until we reach the madman's sect. Given Mr. Mo's intelligence, if he can't find us on the way, he'll definitely go to the madman's sect." After hearing Chen and Jiang Xingfeng's words, Jiang Yunxi nodded and accepted their suggestion. Then they walked into the city. When they entered the city gate, they met a group of beautiful girls. "Holy Clan of Kongxian Heaven! Holy Clan of Diablo Heaven!" When Chen saw the other party, and when the other party saw Chen, they were both surprised. However, since both parties had their own matters to attend to, they didn't communicate. Chen retracted his gaze and walked into an inn with Jiang Yunxi and the others. Coincidentally, the inn that Chen and the others entered was the one that Mo Qingyun went to. When they entered the inn, they chose a room and ordered some food and wine. When everything was ready, Chen and the others sat down and waited for the food and wine. They listened to the conversations around them. Hearing these people's conversations, Chen's expression changed. He became interested in what the people around him were saying. Chapter 3250. The Divine Venerate Inheritance of the Diablo's Sacred Clan? Chen was shocked when he heard what the people around him were saying. His interest was immediately piqued. Although his cultivation speed wasn't slow, he still wouldn't be able to keep up with Mo Qingyun's footsteps if he didn't have any opportunities. Based on the current situation, it wouldn't be long before he would be left behind by Mo Qingyun. If I get this inheritance, my strength will definitely increase rapidly. With this thought in mind, Chen focused his attention and listened to the words of these people. Jiang Xingfeng and the others were stunned when they saw Chen's reaction. They quickly guessed his thoughts. Then, Jiang Xingfeng said, "Brother Chen, if you're interested in the demonic sect's divine venerate inheritance, you can ignore us and focus on getting the inheritance. When you have obtained the inheritance, you can come to the madman's sect to look for us. If young Master Mo reaches the madman's sect first, we will tell him everything about you. In that case, thank you very much." Chen nodded when he heard Jiang Xingfeng's words. He had made a decision. After chatting with Jiang Xingfeng and the others for a while, Chen parted ways with them and headed to the demonic sect's divine venerate inheritance. Jiang Xingfeng's expression dimmed as he watched Chen's departing figure. It's indeed difficult for powerhouses and ordinary people to walk the same path. Even if there are some interactions, it's ultimately difficult for them to walk the same path. Jiang Xingfeng's words made Jiang Yunxi feel conflicted. Her beautiful eyes were tightly knitted. Although Jiang Xingfeng's words weren't meant for her to hear, the meaning behind his words was very clear. She had a good impression of Mo Qingyun, but given the gap between her and Mo Qingyun, it would be very difficult for them to walk the same path. For example, because of some small unforeseen circumstances, they had no choice but to part ways. While Jiang Xingfeng and the others were eating, Xing He and the others arrived in Donglai City. When the three of them arrived in Donglai City, they went straight to the Heaven Killer Guild's branch to ask about Mo Qingyun's situation. Inside the Heaven Killer Guild's branch, reporting to Chief, not long ago, that brat left Donglai City. In the meeting hall of the Heaven Slayer Association, an old man in his 50s reported to Guan Peng respectfully, "After he left Donglai City, we followed him for a while. He left in the direction of East Sun Island. According to our guess, he might be planning to cross the Sea of Boundaries and enter the Sky Demon Divine Realm." Hearing this person's words, Wang Guoqiong's old face trembled, and a strong sense of unease arose. He couldn't help but worry that Mo Qingyun had gone to the Sky Demon Divine region to take revenge on the Cold Moon Demon Palace. "No, I have to rush back immediately, in case that brat goes to Cold Moon Devil Palace to cause trouble." Thinking about what had happened to the East Sun Island branch of the Killer Association, Wang Guoqiong did not want to waste any more time. She immediately got up and walked out of the palace. Seeing Wang Guoqiong's actions, Xing He's expression tensed up and wanted to rush back with him. Seeing Wang Guoqiong and Xing He's reaction, Guan Peng hesitated before saying, "I'll go with the two of you. This brat destroyed the Heaven Slayer Association's branch. I definitely won't let him off." Wang Guoqiong and Xing He agreed to Guan Peng's request without hesitation and prepared to rush back with him. Guan Peng was a mid-god king powerhouse. If they had his help, it would be extremely useful. Seeing that Wang Guoqiong had agreed, Guan Peng thought for a moment before saying to the old man in the palace, "During this period of observation, I discovered that the brat's speed seems to be slightly faster than ours. If that's the case, the flying boat he's piloting should be at the godly king level. Do you know what his flying boat looks like?" Wang Guoqiong was stunned when she heard Guan Peng's words, but she quickly nodded in agreement. They would follow Mo Qingyun's route and return to the Sky Demon Divine region. Perhaps they would run into Mo Qingyun along the way. If they did not know that Mo Qingyun's flying boat had brushed past them, it would have been a great loss. Under Guan Peng and the other two's gazes, the old man responded and projected an image. Soon, the image of a huge flying boat appeared before everyone's eyes. "It's actually that flying boat. No wonder I found that flying boat so familiar when I saw it earlier. He's lucky to have slipped away before our eyes. If that's the case, let's not waste any more time and chase after him immediately." Wang Guoqiong and the other two were enraged when they saw the scene before them. They immediately left the Heaven Slayer Association's branch. Mo Qingyun was completely unaware of Wang Guoqiong and the other two's pursuit. He was completely immersed in cultivation. Time passed very quickly. In the blink of an eye, a few days had passed. After a few days of traveling, Aolai controlled the flying boat and entered the Sea of Boundaries in the Divine Territory. Compared to traveling on the surface of the Sea of Boundaries in the Divine Territory, it was much easier for Aolai to control the flying boat to travel in the sea. Not long after Aolai controlled the Shadow Sword flying boat and entered the Sea of Boundaries in the Divine Territory, Guan Peng and the others rushed over. After a simple inquiry, Guan Peng learned that the Shadow Sword flying boat had entered the sea. His face turned ashen as he said angrily, "What a cunning brat! He actually entered the sea to travel and avoid our pursuit." At this moment, Guan Peng truly understood why Wang Guoqiong and Xing He said that Mo Qingyun was very difficult to deal with. Mo Qingyun was too cunning, and his vigilance was too high. From Mo Qingyun's behavior, he seemed to have an instinctive premonition of the arrival of danger. "We'll definitely be attacked by the underwater demon tribe when we enter the Sea of Boundaries in the Divine Territory. What do we do now?" Seeing this situation, Guan Peng's expression tensed as he asked Wang Guoqiong and Xing He for their thoughts. Hearing Guan Peng's question, Wan Guoqiong pondered for a while and said, "Even if that brat is traveling in the sea, he'll definitely leave the Sea of Boundaries in the Divine Territory and enter the Sky Demon Divine Territory. We'll return to the Sky Demon Divine Territory directly and send more people to search for him. We'll wait for him to come." Guan Peng and Xing He immediately agreed with Wan Guoqiong's suggestion. Then, the three of them controlled the flying boat and rushed toward the Sky Demon Divine Territory. With Xing He and the other two's God King cultivation, the speed of the flying boat on the sea's surface was much faster than in the sea. About 10 days later, at full speed, the three of them reached the center of the Sea of Boundaries in the Divine Territory and crossed half of the Sea of Boundaries. At this moment, as the three of them continued on their way, a shocking aura slowly approached. What a powerful aura! It's a quasi-god emperor expert. Not a quasi-god emperor. It should be a half-step god emperor. It's him. Isn't he dead? Seeing the figure in the distance, Guan Peng and the other two were shocked. In particular, Xing He's expression was the most shocked. This was because the half-step god emperor flying in the air in front of them was the soul caller expert from the auction house. Seeing Xing He's reaction, Guan Peng and Xing He turned to look at him curiously. Chapter 32:51. Brother Xing He, do you know him? Seeing Xing He's reaction, Guan Peng was curious and quickly asked. X23 US. Upon hearing Guan Peng's question, Xing He looked at Wan Guoqiong and said, "Previously, at an auction house in Nine Evil City, this person was clearly dead but was put up for auction. Young Palace Master Wan Qianqi and Mo Qinyun fought over it and successfully won the auction. How did this person come back to life? This is really strange." Wan Guoqiong and Guan Peng's expressions immediately tensed up when they heard Xing He's explanation. Right now, the hearts of the three of them were filled with intense confusion. It was indeed strange that a dead person had suddenly come back to life. Xing He frowned and said, "Could this person's resurrection have something to do with Mo Qinyun? If Mo Qinyun saved him, Mo Qinyun could be considered his benefactor. He should have appeared to help Mo Qinyun." Guan Peng was stunned when he heard Xing He's analysis. His eyes widened as he exclaimed, "If that's the case, the destruction of the East Sun Island branch must have been caused by this person." Wan Guoqiong nodded in agreement after hearing Guan Peng's words. Given his quasi-god emperor cultivation, it shouldn't be difficult for him to destroy the East Sun Island branch. Wan Guoqiong's expression tensed up when she said this. She was worried and unwilling to accept this outcome. If it was really as they had guessed, it wouldn't be easy for them to kill Mo Qinyun with the protection of a quasi-god emperor powerhouse. Xing He's expression tensed as he looked at the spirit summoner race patriarch. He turned to Wan Guoqiong and Guan Peng and said, "What do we do now? Should we join forces to kill this person before thinking of a way to deal with Mo Qinyun?" Wan Guoqiong shook her head and said, "He's too strong. Even if the three of us work together, we're not his match." While Xing He and Guan Peng were talking, Guan Peng said in surprise, "Something's not right. If Mo Qinyun is escorted by this person, he won't need to worry about anything if he wants to cross the Sea of Dividing Worlds. He can just cross the sea directly." But Mo Qinyun went to the bottom of the sea, and from the bottom of the sea, he passed through the Sea of Divine Domains. And from his performance just now, he seems to have come from the Sky Demon Divine Domain. Hearing Guan Peng say this, Xing He and Wan Guoqiong looked at each other and also noticed this detail. While they were talking, the ancestor of the soul summoner race flew closer and said coldly, "Everyone, have you seen a brat? He looks like..." Then, the spirit tribe patriarch described Mo Qinyun's appearance to the three of them in detail, while Xing He watched in astonishment. After hearing the spirit summoner patriarch's question, Xing He and the others were stunned. They couldn't believe their ears. Judging from the spirit summoner patriarch's attitude, He seemed to be looking for trouble with Emo Qingyun, not helping him. How could this be? Xing He and the other two looked at each other, feeling a little confused. While the three of them were dumbfounded, they were secretly delighted. This was a good thing for them. Without the protection of the Spirit Summoner Patriarch, it would be much easier for them to deal with Emo Qingyun. Senior, we're also looking for the brat you mentioned. Guanping thought for a while and said, Why are you looking for him, Senior? Guanping didn't want to reveal his intentions before he knew what the Spirit Summoner Patriarch wanted. The Spirit Summoner Patriarch didn't answer Guanping's question. Instead, he said coldly, There's no need for me to tell you why I'm looking for him. The Spirit Summoner Patriarch turned and left, hurrying toward the Sky Demon Divine Domain. The meaning of his actions was obvious. Guanping and the others didn't know Emo Qingyun's whereabouts, so there was no need for him to say anything more. Guanping and the others didn't care about the Spirit Summoner Patriarch's attitude and looked away. Wan Guoqiong was silent for a moment and said, From the looks of it, this person shouldn't be related to Emo Qingyun. If they are, they're definitely enemies. Xing He and the others nodded, agreeing with Wan Guoqiong's analysis. Having obtained such a result, the three of them relaxed and continued to operate the flying boat to hasten on their journey. Another 2 months passed. With Ailey's help, they left the Sea of Divine Realm's boundary and entered the Sky Monster Divine Realm. After leaving the Sea of Boundaries, Aeolai sent a voice transmission to Emo Qingyun. Benefactor, we've arrived at the Sky Demon Divine Domain. Upon hearing Aeolai's voice transmission, Emo Qingyun stopped cultivating. The number of nomological threads is still a little short. When Emo Qingyun sensed his own cultivation base, he had a clear understanding of the state of his cultivation base. Emo Qingyun walked out of the cabin and came to Aeolai's side. I'll go on my own. I'll send you to a place. After instructing Aeolai, Emo Qingyun waved his hand and sent Aeolai to the Fortune mainland. Aeolai was a demonic beast from the Sea of Boundaries. If he appeared in the Sky Demon Divine Domain, there would be a lot of trouble. After all, he was neither a barbarian beast nor an intelligent beast. His identity was very awkward. After sending Aeolai away, Emo Qingyun took control of the flying boat and rushed towards the Carefree Valley. On the way, Emo Qingyun's brows were deeply furrowed with worry. Rushing through the Sea of Boundaries will take a long time. I wonder if the profound Heaven Holy Tribe's women are ahead of me. To prevent them from reaching the Carefree Valley ahead of time, I have to speed up. With this thought in mind, Emo Qingyun increased the flying boat's speed by a notch. To Emo Qingyun's surprise, his flying boat was intercepted before he could go far. Brat, obediently wait for death, otherwise, don't blame us for being impolite. A group of people stopped Emo Qingyun. The leader of the group was a Heavenly God Realm expert, and he shouted at Emo Qingyun. Looking at these people in front of him, Emo Qingyun gave them a disdainful glance and said, I'll give you all a chance. Disappear from my sight before I get angry. As Emo Qingyun's words fell, a strong killing intent surged out from his body. Seeing Emo Qingyun's action, the group of people sneered with disdain. Their faces were full of mockery. Then, without wasting any time, they attacked Emo Qingyun, courting death. Seeing these people's actions, Emo Qingyun summoned Gong Hanqing and ordered him to deal with them. With these people's strength, how could they be Gong Hanqing's opponent? In the blink of an eye, they were all killed. After dealing with the trouble in front of him, Emo Qingyun did not stop. He continued to control the flying boat. To his surprise, after a short while, he was stopped by another group of people. Seeing such a situation, Emo Qingyun began to overthink. He felt that something was wrong. Chapter 32:52. The ambushes I encountered along the way should be related to the Cold Moon Demon Palace. Emo Qingyun thought about it for a moment before he understood why he had been ambushed one after another. After understanding the reason for the ambushes, Mo Qingyun did not think too much about it and did not take it too seriously. With the combat strength he controlled now, unless he encountered a God-Emperor powerhouse chasing after him, there would not be too much trouble. Next, Mo Qingyun controlled the flying ship unhurriedly and headed towards Carefree Valley. As for the ambushes he encountered along the way, Mo Qingyun did not show mercy and dealt with them one by one. During this process, Mo Qingyun's harvest was also rather bountiful. He obtained quite a number of heaven crystals and cultivation resources. Mo Qingyun unknowingly started to have the number of heaven crystals in his possession close to 500 million. Seeing the rapid increase in cultivation resources, Mo Qingyun smiled faintly and thought to himself, in this way, I have to thank the Cold Moon Demon Palace for giving me gifts again and again. Unfortunately, I'm in a hurry to go to Carefree Valley. Otherwise, my harvest might be greater if I travel slower. Mo Qingyun sighed regretfully and increased the speed of the Sword Shadow flying ship a little more. However, no matter how fast Mo Qingyun increased the speed, the obstructions he encountered along the way also started to become more and more frequent. Mo Qingyun was not surprised by this situation. He knew the reason for this. Because he kept attacking along the way, his whereabouts were equivalent to being exposed. In this way, these people knew his whereabouts and could naturally underestimate his pursuit. 5 days passed very quickly. In these 5 days, Mo Qingyun didn't really remember how many people he had killed in his path. He only knew that in these 5 days, the number of heaven crystals in his possession had already broken through the 500 million mark. If this was in the past, he would find it very hard to believe that a person with heaven general cultivation could possess 500 million heaven crystals. At this moment, as Mo Qingyun was hurrying along, a terrifying aura enveloped him. Sensing this aura, Mo Qingyun's expression trembled and he felt a strong sense of unease. Quasi-God Emperor. Mo Qingyun was secretly shocked. He looked towards the source of the aura and guessed that it had caught up. He said, I didn't expect this guy to be so persistent. He actually chased me all the way here. Fine, I'll teach this guy a lesson so that he won't think that I'm a pushover. As Mo Qingyun thought of this, he stopped the Shadow Sword flying ship and waited for the arrival of the Soulcaller race ancestor. Before long, Mo Qingyun watched as the Spirit Summoner ancestor appeared in front of him. Seeing Mo Qingyun's actions, a look of surprise appeared on the Soulcaller ancestor's face, and he said, Brat, you're quite bold. I've already caught up to you, yet you still dare to stay behind and throw your life away. However, with your cultivation, it's impossible for you to escape from me. Mo Qingyun smiled meaningfully when he heard the Soulcaller ancestor's words. Is that so? I don't think so. Didn't I leave the last time I was in front of you as well? I don't mind telling you that the reason I'm not leaving this time is because I want to settle a score with you. Mo Qingyun's words made the Soulcaller ancestor's face turn ashen. He couldn't accept that a heavenly general brat was actually speaking to him in such a manner. The Soulcaller ancestor's face darkened and he snorted coldly. Humph! I haven't seen you for a while, but your guts and glib tongue have become more and more formidable. In that case, let me see what you're relying on. As soon as the Soulcaller ancestor finished speaking, his figure moved and flew towards Mo Qingyun. Mo Qingyun didn't agree to the Soulcaller ancestor's attack and immediately summoned the demon god to intercept him. Soon, several figures with powerful auras appeared in front of Mo Qingyun. Kill. After summoning the demon gods, Mo Qingyun didn't hesitate in the slightest and immediately ordered them to attack. Then, the figures of the ghost deities flashed and flew toward the Soulcaller race's ancestor. 4 God King Realm Demon Gods. The Soulcaller ancestor's expression froze when he saw the demon gods pouncing towards him. His eyes were filled with shock. He knew that Mo Qingyun must have some sort of trump card if he dared to face him head-on. He hadn't expected Mo Qingyun's trump card to be so powerful. 4 God King Realm Demon Gods were indeed enough to pose a threat to him and ensure Mo Qingyun's safety. After a brief moment of surprise, the Soul Caller Ancestor's expression darkened. "Kid, you do have some tricks up your sleeve. I admit that I've underestimated you. They're just 4 God King Realm Demon Gods, not true God King experts. They can only hold me back for a while. As for you, controlling 4 God King Realm Demon Gods in battle must consume a lot of your mental strength. Let's see how long you can last." The Soul Caller Ancestor wasn't in a hurry to attack Mo Qingyun after he finished speaking. He continued to fight the 4 demon gods at a leisurely pace. His current goal was simple. He wanted to wear down Mo Qingyun's mental strength bit by bit until it was completely exhausted. When that happened, it would be easy for him to take care of Mo Qingyun. Not only that, but the Soul Caller Ancestor's aura was also growing bit by bit as he fought Gong Hanqing and the others. From the looks of it, he seemed to be using the 4 demon gods to sharpen his blade and break through to the God Emperor realm. Sensing the increase in his cultivation base, the smile on the Soul Caller race's ancestor's face immediately widened. He said, "Brat, your ghostly deities are really good sparring partners. If they help this seat break through to the celestial Dharch realm, this seat will give you a quick death later." Hearing the Soul Caller Ancestor's words and seeing his smug expression, Mo Qingyun curled his lips in disdain. "You seem to be celebrating too early. I dared to keep you here and challenge you to a fight. How could this be all I've got? If you want me to be your whetstone, we'll have to see if you have the ability." The sealed door. As soon as Mo Qingyun finished speaking, he struck out with his palm and blasted out a mysterious door of light. The door of light moved extremely quickly and entered the Soul Caller Ancestor's body in the blink of an eye. It began to seal his bloodline, divine power, and spirit. Then, the Soul Caller Ancestor's aura began to weaken rapidly. In just a few moments, the Soul Caller Ancestor's cultivation fell from the quasi-God Emperor realm to the early God King realm. Not only that, but his cultivation didn't stop falling. It continued to weaken. Seeing this situation, the Soul Caller race's ancestor immediately panicked. He was no longer as calm and collected as before. What kind of technique is this?" the Soul Caller Ancestor cried out in shock. He immediately grew fearful and didn't dare to linger any longer. As his cultivation base fell, the strength he possessed also began to weaken at an extremely fast rate. If he didn't leave soon, he might very well die here. Chapter 3253. Trying to escape? When Mo Qingyun saw the Soul Caller race's ancestor's reaction, he guessed what he was thinking and looked at him mockingly. Without waiting for the Soul Caller's ancestor to respond, Mo Qingyun's expression turned colder as he continued, "Your life was given to you by me. It's fine if you're not grateful to me, but you actually want to deal with me. An ungrateful person like you should never be reincarnated. Since helping you come back to life was a mistake, I'll take your life now." As soon as Mo Qingyun finished speaking, he controlled Gong Hanqing and the other specters to attack the Soul Caller Patriarch in a frenzy. Gong Hanqing and the other specters were dead and had no consciousness of their own. They acted according to Mo Qingyun's will. Therefore, when they attacked, they didn't fear death at all. Gong Hanqing and the other specters didn't fear death, but that didn't mean the Soul Caller Patriarch was the same. Surrounded by Gong Hanqing and the other specters, the Soul Caller Patriarch was in a perilous situation. He dodged left and right, not daring to meet them head-on. If this continues, I'll be seriously injured and die before long. Seeing his predicament, the Soul Caller Patriarch's expression tensed. He looked at Mo Qingyun and said, "I have to deal with that brat to resolve my crisis." With that thought, the Soul Caller Patriarch's figure flashed and he flew toward Mo Qingyun. His intention couldn't be more obvious. At this moment, the Soul-Caller Patriarch gave up on resisting the attacks of the specters. In his opinion, as long as he could take down Emo Chinyun, it didn't matter even if he had to suffer a serious injury. "You're courting death." Seeing the Soul-Caller Patriarch's actions, Emo Chinyun's lips curled into a disdainful sneer. At the same time, a great Tao origin with an astonishing aura appeared in Emo Chinyun's hand. "Destroy." Summoning the great Tao origin, Emo Chinyun activated it without the slightest hesitation. Then, a power comparable to a God King's attack blasted out from the great Tao origin. "No." Seeing Emo Chinyun's actions, the Soul-Caller race's ancestor's expression changed greatly. His eyes filled with unwillingness. He had just been resurrected not long ago and had yet to carry out his grand plans. He was unwilling to die like this. Boom, boom, boom. The origin of the great Tao struck the spirit-summoning tribe patriarch, and an astonishing boom erupted as waves of terrifying power were generated. When this power erupted, Emo Chinyun's figure flashed and he quickly retreated into the distance. Emo Chinyun did not dare to be careless after using the origin of the great Tao to strike the Soul-Caller ancestor. He stared ahead with a tense expression. As for Gong Hanqing and the other specters, they were also ordered by Emo Chinyun to guard the perimeter of the divine storm. Time slowly passed. As time passed, the imposing divine power storm began to dissipate bit by bit. Just as the divine power storm was about to dissipate, a figure flashed and escaped from the storm. "Kill!" Seeing that figure appear, Emo Chinyun's face turned cold and he issued an order to the specters. Receiving Emo Chinyun's order, Gong Hanqing and the other specters chased after the Soul-Caller race's ancestor in a flicker. Unfortunately, the Soul-Caller race's ancestor was a quasi-god emperor master. Although his cultivation was sealed, his strength was not something Gong Hanqing and the other specters could compare to. Now that he had used a secret technique to escape, it would be extremely difficult to chase him down. "Brat, this lord will remember this debt. When this lord advances to the God-Emperor realm, this lord will come back to settle the score with you." While the Soul-Caller race's ancestor was escaping, his angry words came from afar. Hearing the Soul-Caller race's ancestor's words, Emo Chinyun was not afraid. He snorted lightly and said, "Count yourself lucky this time. If I meet you again, I'll definitely kill you and suck your blood dry." Emo Chinyun's words fell and he retrieved Gong Hanqing and the other specters, sending them to the Fortune mainland. After dealing with the Soul-Caller race's ancestor, Emo Chinyun did not stop. He continued to fly the Shadow Sword flying ship. Along the way, Emo Chinyun encountered a lot of trouble, but he easily dealt with them. What surprised Emo Chinyun was that Wan Guoqiong and the others did not appear. He wondered what they were doing. At least they are tactful and did not come to throw away their lives. Now that he was about to return to the barbarian demon's divine continent and he did not see Wan Guoqiong and the others, Emo Chinyun thought to himself, "Time is of the essence, I must hurry to the Carefree Valley. When I come out from there, I'll slowly settle the score with him." While Emo Chinyun was thinking, he entered the barbarian demon's divine continent's territory. After entering the barbarian demon's divine continent, the pursuit stopped, and the journey became much smoother. However, Emo Chinyun did not let down his guard. Instead, he became even more cautious. The barbarian demons and wisdom demons were constantly fighting each other. He could be considered a member of the wisdom demon branch, and it was easy for him to attract the barbarian demon's hostility. Sometimes, the more you worry about something, the more likely it is to happen. When Emo Chinyun was carefully dodging, he still attracted the attention of a group of barbarian demons, and they blocked his path. What surprised Emo Chinyun even more was that the barbarian demons blocking his path were actually old acquaintances. "It's actually him." So this big dog actually ran into the barbarian demon's divine continent's hinterland. Looking at the familiar figure in the group of barbarian demons, Emo Qingyun's face was filled with shock. Previously, when he was in the spatial crack, he wanted to find trouble with the Dragon Claw Fierce Sun Leopard, but the Dragon Claw Fierce Sun Leopard disappeared. This result made Emo Qingyun a little disappointed, but he soon forgot about it. He did not expect to meet it here after a period of time. From the looks of it, it seems to be doing well. Looking at the Dragon Claw Fierce Sun Leopard, Emo Qingyun's face was filled with shock. He curiously sized it up and said in bewilderment, This fellow's cultivation has actually broken through to the heavenly deity realm. Its cultivation speed is pretty fast. If I'm not wrong, it should have encountered a fortuitous encounter during this period of time. When Emo Qingyun was sizing up the Dragon Claw Fierce Sun Leopard, the other party was also sizing him up. Its eyes were also filled with shock. When it first met Emo Qingyun was only in the heavenly soldier realm. Now, less than a year had passed, but Emo Qingyun's cultivation was close to the great deity realm. Such cultivation speed was much faster than the Dragon Claw Fierce Sun Leopard. Roar! After sizing up Emo Qingyun, the Dragon Claw Fierce Sun Leopard did not say anything and ordered its underlings to attack. It was true that when enemies met, their eyes would turn red. This silly dog! Looking at the Dragon Claw Fierce Sun Leopard's action, Emo Qingyun chuckled. He did not panic or fear at all. At this moment, his gaze towards the Dragon Claw Fierce Sun Leopard was filled with intense ridicule and mockery. I'll play with you. As soon as Emo Qingyun's words fell, his figure flashed and rushed towards the Dragon Claw Fierce Sun Leopard's underlings. The Dragon Claw Fierce Sun Leopard's underlings were all in the great deity realm. He could use them as practice. He had just cultivated a few superpowers and had never had the chance to combine them. At this moment, the Dragon Claw Fierce Sun Leopard was the best sparring partner. Chapter 3254. Divine Thunder Dragon Wave. When Emo Qingyun arrived in front of the monsters, he didn't hesitate at all and directly used his divine ability. A violent lightning energy exploded from Emo Qingyun's body and turned into a giant crimson lightning dragon shadow. Once the blood lightning dragon shadow was formed, it charged towards the demons and began to fight them. Bang! 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 Under the impact of the crimson lightning dragon shadow, the great god realm beasts were knocked to the ground. Seeing this scene, the Dragon Claw Fierce Sun Leopard at the back opened its eyes wide, somewhat unable to believe this result. It had only been a short while and Emo Qingyun's strength was already on par with him. No, to be exact, Emo Qingyun's current strength might be slightly stronger than him. It was difficult for him to defeat a group of great god realm experts with just one move. As expected of a heavenly god's superpower, it's much stronger than the tyrant dragon sky-shattering fist. Emo Qingyun was pleasantly surprised when he saw the power of his move. He became a little excited. He was very satisfied with the power of the divine thunder dragon wave. After sending the great god realm beasts flying, Emo Qingyun turned to look at the Dragon Claw Scorching Sun Leopard and said, "Big dog, don't just stand there. Come and spar with me." Hearing Emo Qingyun's words, the Dragon Claw Scorching Sun Leopard roared and rushed towards Emo Qingyun. Although it was a little flustered, for the sake of its reputation, it couldn't turn around and run away. In the past, Emo Qingyun didn't have the confidence to face it. Even though it was intimidated and didn't dare to attack Emo Qingyun, it was because of the great Tao origin. However, it was different now. Emo Qingyun's strength was enough to make him feel threatened. Roar! The dragon-clawed Scorching Sun Leopard roared. Its figure flashed and pounced on Emo Qingyun. Seeing the Dragon Claw Fierce Sun Leopard attacking, Emo Qingyun was not afraid at all. He took the initiative to meet it. In order to test his own strength, Emo Qingyun didn't use any divine ability in the beginning. Instead, he faced the Dragon Claw Ardent Sun Leopard head-on. In a direct confrontation with Emo Qingyun,
he was at a disadvantage, and was vaguely suppressed by the Dragon Claw Fierce Sun Leopard. After obtaining this result, Mo Qingyun had a rough understanding of his own strength. If I don't use any tricks, my strength should be close to a Sky Celestial grade powerhouses. If that's the case, then I'll use my divine ability and see what level I can reach. With this thought in mind, Mo Qingyun no longer hesitated and immediately used his body to fight. Divine Thunder Dragon Transformation Wave. Soon, a terrifying wave of divine power erupted from Mo Qingyun's body. When this divine power burst out, it turned into a huge blood lightning dragon shadow and pounced towards the Dragon Claw Blazing Sun Leopard. Bang bang bang. Shortly after, the Dragon Claw Blazing Sun Leopard and the Blood Lightning Dragon shadow clashed. The battle was earth-shattering, and loud noises were unceasing. Judging from the current situation, it would be hard to tell who was stronger in a short period of time. However, if the battle went on for a long time, the Blood Lightning Dragon shadow could still win. Let's try the power of the Dark Demon Dragon's sky-devouring roar. Seeing the power of the Divine Thunder Dragon Transformation Wave, Mo Qingyun was filled with anticipation. He then used the Dark Demon Dragon's sky-devouring roar. Shortly after, an even more majestic divine power condensed outside of Mo Qingyun's body. Soon, a huge black dragon shadow shrouded Mo Qingyun. Roar. When the huge black dragon shadow was formed, it let out an earth-shattering roar and a terrifying sound wave. Facing the impact of the sound wave, the Dragon Claw Blazing Sun Leopard's body clearly trembled. Shortly after, its attack also paused, and its consciousness went into a momentary trance. Bang! As the Dragon Claw Blazing Sun Leopard's body paused, the Blood Lightning Dragon Shadow's Dragon Claw domineeringly struck its body. After being struck by the Blood Lightning Dragon Shadow's claw, the Dragon Claw Blazing Sun Leopard was immediately sent flying and fell heavily on the ground. Shortly after, it looked at Mo Qingyun with a strong sense of shock. Seeing the power of the Dark Demon Dragon's sky-devouring roar, Mo Qingyun's expression was filled with joy. He revealed a satisfied expression on his face and thought to himself, the Dark Demon Dragon's sky-devouring roar is a sound wave attack. Although it can't be used in a head-on confrontation, it's not bad to catch the opponent off guard. After attacking twice in a row, Mo Qingyun had a rough understanding of the power of the two superpowers. Currently, he wasn't very familiar with the two superpowers. There was still a lot of room for improvement. When he was more familiar with the two superpowers, the power of the two superpowers would also become stronger. While Mo Qingyun was pondering, the Dragon Claw Blazing Sun Leopard looked at him with fear and carefully retreated. Seeing the Dragon Claw Blazing Sun Leopard's actions, the corner of Mo Qingyun's mouth curled up slightly. He said, "It's not convenient for me to move around in the barbarian demon tribe. It's better that I lack a guide. You can guide me without worry." As soon as Mo Qingyun finished speaking, his figure moved and chased after the Dragon Claw Blazing Sun Leopard. Mo Qingyun's current flying speed was even faster than a godly king expert. How could the Dragon Claw Blazing Sun Leopard compare to him? Mo Qingyun's figure flashed a few times before he caught up to the Dragon Claw Blazing Sun Leopard and blocked its path. Roar! Seeing Mo Qingyun's actions, the Dragon Claw Blazing Sun Leopard was immediately enraged and roared at Mo Qingyun. However, Mo Qingyun didn't care about its roar at all. He directly summoned the specter god Yang Guolong. Yang Guolong was a mid-godly king expert when he was alive. When he was summoned, he released a terrifying aura. Woo! Under the envelopment of Yang Guolong's aura, the Dragon Claw Blazing Sun Leopard immediately cowered and laid on the ground like a dog. Seeing the Dragon Claw Blazing Sun Leopard's actions, Mo Qingyun revealed a satisfied smile. The Dragon Claw Blazing Sun Leopard was tactful and saved him a lot of trouble. Let's go. Mo Qingyun didn't waste time talking nonsense. After instructing the Dragon Claw Blazing Sun Leopard,
he returned to the Shadow Sword flying ship. Due to the Spectre God, Yang Guolong's strength, the Dragon Claw Blazing Sun Leopard obediently listened to him, even though it was unwilling. Shortly after, it reluctantly looked around before boarding the Shadow Sword flying ship. Let's go to the Jade Lake Divine Prefecture. Seeing the Dragon Claw Blazing Sun Leopard board, Mo Qingyun took out a map and threw it in front of it. Hearing Mo Qingyun's order, the Dragon Claw Blazing Sun Leopard was unwilling to give up and began to control the flying ship. Seeing the Dragon Claw Blazing Sun Leopard's actions, Mo Qingyun faintly smiled and said, "You've chased me so many times before. This time, you're not willing to be my guide? If that's the case, I'll kill you and get a demon to be your guide. How about that?" After Mo Qingyun's threat, the Dragon Claw Blazing Sun Leopard immediately cowered and shivered in fear. The Dragon Claw Blazing Sun Leopard's actions made Mo Qingyun chuckle and nod his head in satisfaction. The more scared the Dragon Claw Blazing Sun Leopard was, the more obedient it would be. After letting the Dragon Claw Blazing Sun Leopard drive the flying ship, Mo Qingyun returned to the cabin to cultivate. Chapter 3255. The Dragon Claw Scorching Sun Leopard seemed to have a high status among the barbarian demons. It was only slightly inferior to Yuli and the other demons. Although they encountered many barbarian demons along the way, none of them stopped the Dragon Claw Scorching Sun Leopard. About half a month later, the journey was smooth sailing. The Dragon Claw Scorching Sun Leopard drove the flying boat and arrived at the Jade Lake Divine Prefecture. Roar! The Dragon Claw Scorching Sun Leopard stopped the flying boat and shouted towards the cabin. It was telling Mo Qingyun that it had completed its mission and that Mo Qingyun should let it leave. We actually arrived at the Jade Lake Divine Prefecture? That's pretty fast. Hearing the Dragon Claw Scorching Sun Leopard's shout, Mo Qingyun was shocked and withdrew from his cultivation. He didn't expect the Dragon Claw Scorching Sun Leopard to be so efficient. Roar! Seeing Mo Qingyun walk out of the cabin, the Dragon Claw Fierce Sun Leopard let out a few more roars and said, "In the barbarian demon's divine continent, I can control the flying boat without any obstructions, but not in the Jade Lake Divine Continent. I'm useless to you if I continue to stay here. Can I leave now?" Hearing the Dragon Claw Scorching Sun Leopard's words, Mo Qingyun pondered for a moment and waved his hand. "You can leave now. Don't let me see you again. Otherwise, I won't let you off so easily like this time." Seeing Mo Qingyun let it leave, the Dragon Claw Scorching Sun Leopard dashed far away and disappeared from Mo Qingyun's sight. It didn't want to see Mo Qingyun. It was an accident this time. After letting the Dragon Claw Scorching Sun Leopard leave, Mo Qingyun took out the map and considered the next route. He wanted to analyze the route to Carefree Valley that would be faster and easier. Soon, Mo Qingyun decided on the route to Carefree Valley. After deciding on the route, Mo Qingyun didn't waste any time and set off for Carefree Valley. Since the journey wasn't far, Mo Qingyun drove the flying boat himself and didn't let Aolai replace him. The journey to Carefree Valley was unexpectedly smooth, which surprised Mo Qingyun. Half a month later, with Mo Qingyun hurrying along, he arrived outside Carefree Valley. Mo Qingyun requests to see Valley Master Carefree. Please pass on my message. Arriving outside Carefree Valley, Mo Qingyun did not waste any time and directly instructed the guards. Knowing Mo Qingyun's identity, the guards did not dare to delay and immediately entered the valley to pass the message. From this, it seemed that the Carefree Valley Master had instructed them to pay special attention to Mo Qingyun. Under the guard's notification, someone quickly came out. It was his old acquaintance, Luo Yunhe. "Little friend Mo, long time no see." "Greetings, senior." When Mo Qingyun and Li Wuyo met, they exchanged a few pleasantries. As Luo Yunhe exchanged pleasantries with Mo Qingyun, he sensed Mo Qingyun's cultivation and his eyes flashed with shock. In a short period of time, Emo Qingyun's cultivation had reached the peak of the Heaven General realm, only a step away from the Great Deity realm. This speed was simply too fast. Little friend, please. After calming down the shock in his heart, Luo Yunhe made an inviting gesture and led Emo Qingyun into the valley. After leading Emo Qingyun into the valley, Luo Yunhe looked curiously at Emo Qingyun and asked, "Little friend Emo, don't worry. In our carefree valley, no one can hurt you." Luo Yunhe vaguely remembered that the last time Emo Qingyun left the 10,000 Demon Emperor Palace, he was hunted down by consecrator Luo Xie. If there were no surprises, Emo Qingyun should have come to Carefree Valley to avoid being hunted down. Hearing Luo Yunhe's words, Emo Qingyun knew that he had misunderstood and hurriedly said, "Senior, I came to Carefree Valley this time not to seek protection, but to ask Valley Master Carefree for a favor." Emo Qingyun's answer surprised Luo Yunhe. The curiosity on his face deepened as he said, "I wonder what little friend Emo wants to help with. Why don't you tell this old man?" Luo Yunhe's direct question made Emo Qingyun somewhat hesitant. He didn't know where to start. Emo Qingyun was silent for a moment before he said, "This matter is a little complicated. After a period of time, there may be a group of Kong Profound Heaven Sacred Clan coming to Carefree Valley to purchase the Carefree fruit. I would like to ask Valley Master to reject their purchase." Hearing Emo Qingyun's request, Luo Yunhe's brows furrowed and a difficult expression appeared on his face. Emo Qingyun's request was a little too difficult. If this matter wasn't handled well, it might offend the Kong Profound Heaven Sacred Clan. The Kong Profound Heaven Sacred Clan wasn't a small force. If they offended them, it would be extremely troublesome. This old man can't make a decision on this matter. Let's wait for Valley Master's opinion. After hearing Emo Qingyun's request, Luo Yunhe shook his head with a difficult expression. He originally thought that Emo Qingyun had come to Carefree Valley to avoid being hunted down by Luo Xie. If that was the case, it would be a small matter. Although Luo Xie was a God King expert, Carefree Valley was nothing in his eyes. However, Emo Qingyun's request made it difficult for them. Soon, Emo Qingyun arrived at Carefree Valley Master's courtyard under Luo Yunhe's guidance. "Valley Master, little friend Emo is here," Luo Yunhe reported respectfully after entering Carefree Valley Master's courtyard. After hearing Luo Yunhe's report, the Carefree Valley Master turned around and looked at Emo Qingyun. He smiled faintly and said, "Little friend Emo, long time no see. I heard that you left the 10,000 Demon Emperor Palace and came to my Carefree Valley. Do you accept my previous proposal?" Luo Yunhe's expression tensed up when he heard Carefree Valley Master's words. He was very clear about Emo Qingyun's cultivation talent. If Emo Qingyun accepted the proposal, Carefree Valley would have another exceptional genius. Of course, if he recruited Emo Qingyun, it would probably cause Chu Jiangxiao's displeasure. "Senior, thank you for thinking so highly of me." Emo Qingyun cupped his fists and thanked him. He did not say whether he agreed or not, but his meaning was obvious. He could not accept Carefree Valley Master's proposal. Seeing Emo Qingyun's reaction, Carefree Valley Master knew what he was thinking and did not force him. After glancing at Emo Qingyun, Valley Master Worryless asked curiously, "I wonder why little friend Emo has come looking for this old man? I have something that I would like to ask Senior for help with." Hearing Carefree Valley Master's question, Emo Qingyun did not beat around the bush and said directly, "After a period of time, there should be some people from the mysterious Sky Sacred Tribe who would like to buy some Carefree fruits from you. I would like to ask Senior to reject them." Emo Qingyun's request made Carefree Valley Master fall silent and put on a difficult expression. Seeing Carefree Valley Master's expression, Emo Qingyun was a little worried that Carefree Valley Master would reject him. Carefree Valley Master thought for a while and shook his head. "Little friend, this matter is making things difficult for me. If I reject them, I'm afraid it will be very disadvantageous for Carefree Valley." Hearing Carefree Valley Master's reply, Emo Qingyun was disappointed, but he did not blame him. If he wanted to blame someone, he could only blame the mysterious Sky's sacred tribe for being too strong. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.